You know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men. We will graduate players. And we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Good Friday morning, Bryan College Station. Welcome along to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair for the final time this week. David rejoins the show on Monday, and everybody will tune their radios off. I'm just kidding. This is the B team version of TexAgs Live. When I'm in the host chair, always to my left during the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looked so good as it does with Maroon U, is Mr. Olin Buchanan, the pride of White Oak, Texas.
Yeah, maybe.
Is there anybody from White Oak more famous than you?
Max McGee of White Oak, Texas, scored the very first touchdown in the very first Super Bowl.
That would make him more famous than you?
Kelsey Warren of White Oak, Texas, is one of the wealthiest men in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's
Mike
he do?
Barber of White Oak, Texas, was a first-round draft choice of the Houston Oilers at tight end.
You're very well read on your White Oak history.
Yeah, I mean, there was...
What does Mr. Warren do?
He's in oil.
And you couldn't get any piece of that?
No, I couldn't. But if anybody wants to get a message to Mr. Warren, and if he wants to help a fellow roughneck out, you know, I'm easy to find.
The best thing for Texas A&M athletics would be a rich Olin Buchanan. You've said that numerous times.
I will tamper my ass off. The way I look at it is, what would make me happy? A&M winning championships would make me happy. And if I had a lot of money, you know, I'd want to use it on things that make me happy, right?
I agree. I don't disagree for sure. I take care of your family, and then what makes you personally happy?
Yeah. So I'd be watching all those players that I bought for A&M on my luxury yacht.
And your yacht, you'd be watching them in a suite.
Well, that too. But if they were on the road, for instance.
It would be really funny if this scenario actually played out. Would you let Billy into your suite?
Of course. Billy's been good to me.
You're just rubbing elbows with, a different level of people.
Billy already rubs elbows with a different level of people to me. Billy, I'm not in Billy's social circle.
There's not many that are. It kind of depends on what he needs, though, right? Like if it's just a regular old Tuesday afternoon and he's going to lunch, he'll hit the minor league ballparks of myself and Richard and Allie and Katie.
If Billy had an evening set up with like Kelsey Warren from White Oak and Mike Barber from White Oak and anybody, all people from East Texas that are famous or whatever, or people that I like George Strait or Doug Brooks and Dunn, all those people, and he knew that I would be the first person he'd call to say, hey, can you go let Griffey out tonight? I got a lot of things going.
Hey, he did. That was cool what he did for Richard. It was very cool.
It was.
And Richard handled himself properly.
Yeah.
There wasn't a million videos and pictures of himself with Dan Campbell.
Yeah. Look, in case you don't know, Richard Zane is a big Lions fan.
Yeah.
And Billy took him up to Detroit for a game, and he got to meet Dan Campbell and a whole bunch of other Detroit dignitaries.
A Friday episode of TexAgs Live. We have a lot of stuff to get to today, and a big-time Aggie basketball game, which will take up a lot of the discussion and conversations the Aggies add to their transfer portal class last night as well with Tyler Onyedim. We'll get more on him, a defensive tackle coming to A&M from Iowa State. We got to talk about the playoff game we saw yesterday, the Sugar Bowl, which I thought Notre Dame was flat out awesome. And we were talking before the show, OB, about their game plan and how well coached they are. But before we get into the actual sports discussion, let's toss it around. This morning, Nick Savage pulling the strings. Good morning, Nicholas.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
We have quite the situation brewing in the studio, Nick, between you and Callie Garner.
What happened?
Unbeknownst to yourself. Well,
yeah, what did I do?
She claimed
what
that
you didn't do.
Well, okay. I'll set the scene and I'll let y'all take it away.
Okay.
She walks in.
Yeah, it just sounds like a conversation right there that if you're married, you have. What'd I do? What you didn't do? It's what you didn't do. Okay.
Let me tell you something about you that you don't know. I'm all ears.
Okay, Ron White.
So Callie over here in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center walks into the studio portion of this office right at 8 o'clock. And I'm looking at my watch and going, what are we doing here? Well, she says that she's been here since 7 and I should ask Nick about what time she arrived because of this wonderful graphic that she made to put on Twitter for the show rundown. So I go and I look at Twitter and I look at the show rundown and the show rundown is missing some pieces, Nick. And I said, well, Jason Howell is going to get his feelings hurt that he's not on the show graphic. And then Callie, I guess you can take it away from there.
He's not on the rundown.
That's crazy how she doesn't say anything till she's in there. She had a whole hour back here.
No one told me. I don't even know how I was supposed to know this information.
Callie, extreme ownership. You're right. It's my fault. So, hey, Bronny,
he's already learned. How long have you been married?
Like 6 months now.
He's already learned.
Yeah.
Just say, it's my fault.
Technically, I did say something, Nick, because I said we don't have enough things to fill.
Oh, she did say that. That's true.
And
but hey, I'm going to steal out a page out of Bronny's book because Callie has been the one to keep me, a lot less on me this entire break because obviously we're in between intern classes right now. So Callie has been coming in every single day to help me do social media stuff and take a little bit off my plate. So thank you, Callie. Sorry I forgot to tell you this morning.
Backfired.
What a heartwarming interaction. And I was really pulling for, some
I think
teeth,
Nick won.
teeth and nails and all that kind of stuff. I was hoping that the weapons would come out. Nice, you two.
Thanks,
Very
Nick.
good. Extreme ownership, courtesy of Nick Savage / Jocko Willink / David Nuno.
As David says, my good friend, Jocko Willink.
Yeah. David's good friend.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you would like Jocko, actually. If you want to call or if you want to interact with the show, call, text 979-693-1150. Boss Firearms Hotline. Boss Firearms, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammo, and accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com. To start earning money like a boss, we would typically be where, OB?
Typically, we'd be at the cool zone.
The holistic planning cool zone. The NFL recently became the last of the big four North American sports leagues to allow private equity firms to acquire ownership stakes in its teams. For years, professional sports investing was reserved for the ultra wealthy. Not anymore. If you are interested in learning more about professional sports investing and to determine if it may be an appropriate opportunity for you, holistic planning is your ticket. Go to investinprosports.com today. Whenever I have to host this radio show and I have to look at this computer screen for 3 hours a day, I look at screens, right? I have to with my phone, and sometimes I'm on the computer. But, David comes in wearing his Clark Kent glasses sometimes. I think I would have to get a pair. Like, just looking and reading these ads, my eyes are getting all fuzzy and I will wear contacts to their last legs, though. They're month-long contacts. I take them off every night. And I'll probably try to squeeze 2 months out of a pair of month-long contact lenses, disposable ones.
Well, I have to wear reading glasses.
Readers?
Yeah. But, a few years ago, several years, I guess it's been 10 years now.
I heard something that
Dr.
you're not supposed to get LASIK after a certain age.
Really? Well, it was 10 years ago. Dr. Wuthridge here did LASIK surgery.
You were 30
it was
then?
awesome. No. I wish. I would have been 53.
Well, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?
Well, whatever your birth certificate said.
You're missing the point.
How old would I be if I didn't know how old I was? Well, if I was like,
if you just went on how you
I had
felt.
dementia,
If you
some
just
people
went
say
on
I
how
do.
Well, yeah. We can call Irma for a lot of this stuff.
She's one of them.
But if you didn't know how old you were, how old would you feel?
Oh, well, if I didn't know how old I was, how old do I feel? It depends on the time of day.
In the morning?
In the morning,
you feel
like the
different?
first, when I'm trying to get out of bed, I feel like 90. After my shower and, some caffeine, I feel like I'm 15.
Okay, I didn't know your caffeine. Good, yeah. You do
just
need
as
caffeine,
I get moving around and everything, I feel like
where's your caffeine this morning?
It's already been consumed.
Okay, you missed it yesterday.
Yeah,
and you felt too bad to send somebody to the store to get you a.
I tried to stop and get my drink of choice today. I stopped at a well-known grocery store, and I could not
find it.
They didn't have, it wasn't available.
The guy sitting back there pulling the strings has probably bought every can in the Brazos Valley. Y'all drink the same juice.
Yeah, but
most likely.
I have a very specific flavor.
He likes the black and yellow ones. I just like the
white
no
ones.
sugar
cans. Mine's tea and lemonade. Basically, it's an Arnold Palmer.
With a little kick to it.
Yeah.
Well, Nick,
a little.
Nick has transitioned to the Diet Mountain Dews. How are we doing on those counts, Nick?
I've actually weaned off of those as well. I'm onto some BPN, supplements.
Okay.
A little bit of caffeine in there, but
it is because he talked about it yesterday about getting in shape. And for those of you that don't know, Nick is selling memberships to the gym in his home.
I'm actually not. No, I don't want anybody in my gym.
It has a name though.
Savage Gym.
The Shred Shack.
Oh, the Shred Shack.
That goes back to my college days too. I don't think I'm the one that came up with it. I think my old roommate Drew is the one that came up with it. He's a fireman. He's a total bad, but he used to keep me in line.
I joined a new gym and I feel like I'm just one valve.
We've missed you over there on the south side of town.
Yeah, I'm on the north side north side of College Station. I guess I've made progress. I'm just one vowel away from where I need to be.
Go ahead, hit me with it.
I need to go from A to I.
Fat to fit. There is a chain gym, very well known, that I had a buddy of mine that he called it Planet Fatness.
Well, I used to work out there, and I contributed to it.
All right, OB, where do we want to start this morning? Top of mind for me is the Sugar Bowl yesterday, and we were talking before the show, and you were wondering what the pulse of the Georgia fan base would be like with Mike Bobo. I think that it didn't matter if they had Cliff Kingsbury calling the plays yesterday. Notre Dame was going to win that football game, and they were the better football team throughout. There were some moments in the game where I thought Georgia could try to find some footing, but from start to finish, they were the most complete, thorough, like every element. I thought Notre Dame was better than Georgia.
I agree. I thought Notre Dame played harder on top of everything else. I thought Notre Dame, but I do think that Georgia's offense, and I know they had a backup quarterback and everything, but I thought they were really predictable. I thought Notre Dame was overplaying the run, saying, hey, if this backup quarterback can beat us with the pass consistently, then so be it. But we're not going to let them run. And, of course, Mike Bobo was running an obvious running situation. He didn't change things up very often.
Well, how much of the pass do you think?
I think he's never been. How many times does a guy got to get fired? Do you remember they used to have a guy that bounced around? Like his name was Cam. He was the last guy.
You had one of those dementia moments?
Yeah, I do. The last time I remember him being a offensive coordinator was at LSU. But he was a head coach at Indiana for a while. He's in the NFL. Golly, Cam something or another. Anyway, the only time you ever heard of him was when he was getting fired. And the only time you really hear of Mike Bobo is when he's getting fired. I just don't think he's a very good offensive coordinator. Cam Cameron, thank you. I could remember Cam, but I couldn't remember Cameron.
That's what I thought it was. And then
I think it's time to go see the doctor.
Here's one thing about the game that Bobo called, though, and you could say he should have passed more, but I did not like, there was 40 seconds at the end of the half, they've got the ball in their own 20, and that's when he chooses to drop back to pass early in the down, and it's R.J. Oben from Notre Dame, strip sack fumble, and that was a huge momentum swing in the game.
I thought, now that's on Kirby. there was less than a minute to go, right? I thought the smart thing there is say, look, we got a backup quarterback. Let's just take a knee and go on. We're down 6-3. And then not long after that, didn't they give up the kickoff return for a touchdown?
So that's everybody refers to as the middle 8, right?
Right.
A lot
This
of
is like
games.
the last.
I know, it was like the middle
minute of
3.
both,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's the last 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. A lot of people will look at that area of the game as a big determinant of the outcome. What do you do in the middle 8? And I do think that's the game was won and lost in that middle 8.
All you got to do is look at Texas A&M. Texas A&M consistently fails in the middle 8 to me. I mean, they have and I'm not talking about just last year. I'm talking about over a year. How many times have I seen them give up touchdowns? Like, remember when they lost to LSU at Baton Rouge? The play where Max Johnson threw the touchdown on the last play of the game. Well, they score on like a 60-yard touchdown on a short pass with 10 seconds left in the half. A&M consistently fails. When A&M starts closing out halves and getting off to a fast start in the second half, like you said, then you'll see A&M really turn things around.
Well, it was so bad up front for Georgia that they had to do some shuffling on the offensive line to start the second half, and that didn't much help. So I don't know about Mike Bobo. I understand what your trepidations are with him, and I understand why that you would raise the question. But to me, again, it could have been pick your offensive coordinator, pick your most successful offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly. It was going to be hard to scheme against what Notre Dame was doing.
Notre Dame was a better team.
And Notre Dame whipped them up
But
front.
don't help them by being predictable, is all I'm saying. And I will say one thing I learned. I learned that Gunnar Stockton, for all I've been hearing, is apparently what a great athlete he is. He's not as fast as was made out to be, because there were times when I thought, oh, okay, they're about to have a big run from him. Oh, wait, it's 3 yards.
Yeah. And a lot of credit, again, should go to the Notre Dame defense.
No, absolutely. I'm not taking any away from Notre Dame, but I am saying that Georgia got pretty predictable.
Riley Leonard wasn't great, but he was gritty and he was tough.
He'll run when the run is there. He'll take that layup first down that for some reason a lot of teams I watch just seem like the whole concept of taking the easy first down by letting your quarterback tuck it and go just is over their head.
To me, I think Notre Dame is certainly good enough to win the whole thing, but he's going to have to play better in the passing game.
I don't think that. Who they got next? Ohio State?
They play Penn State.
Penn State. They may not get past Penn State.
Oh, I think they will. But I don't think I don't think they can beat the teams on the other side of the bracket.
I agree with that too.
So I think that for me, the national championship game is Ohio State and Texas on that left side of the bracket, and then obviously that's why you play the game. I think Notre Dame could.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
But until I see more out of Riley Leonard as a passer, and look, you look at A&M season, and obviously everything that we do and we talk about on this show, kind of we try to bring it back to what's happening here in College Station. A&M played 2 of the semifinal teams within 10 points, but that was the frustrating part of the season. It was like you had opportunities to put yourself in these games where they were in the playoff and matter, and you couldn't get over the hump because you played so poorly at South Carolina and at Auburn. If you played well on one of those nights, you're at least going to Atlanta to play against Georgia, and who knows. But so 2 of the Final 4, and if A&M had gotten to Atlanta, they would have played 3 of the Final 8 teams, and I don't think anybody in the country would have been able to say that. So for all that everybody talked about the A&M schedule and how forgiving it was, I did the research. I looked at the numbers. This wasn't an easy schedule. It was about like every other SEC schedule they've ever played. But you were one caught ball away on the plains in Auburn from playing Texas, Georgia, and Notre Dame in the same season. That was 3 of the Final 8 and 2 of the Final 4.
Yeah, it seems like now is that encouraging or discouraging?
I don't know. That's again, I don't know.
Because to me, that's a reminder that lately A&M stands for almost.
That's pretty sharp.
I don't feel good about that.
Yeah. On the other side of the break, we'll continue our conversation. Maybe get into some hoops. We got to bank on it. We'll have Around Aggieland. My 3 things that we want to see this week. A lot still to get to with Olin Buchanan, who's going to stick with us all the way to 9:15. We'll have Jason Howell John Pugliese, 9:15 to 9:30. Jason Howell will close out that 9 o'clock hour. Then we'll welcome in Billy Liucci for the 10 o'clock hour. Again, on TexAgs Live, we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Come back with us.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
All right, Friday morning, TexAgs Live. Oh, I could have let that roll. That's one of my favorite songs that I've heard recently. His name is Don Lewis. He's from Commerce, Texas.
I know Commerce.
That song is called Neon You. It's a really good song, and I cut it off. And
Neon You.
Neon You.
Kind of ripping off Brooks and Dunn's
a little bit.
Neon Moon.
Yeah,
Neon You.
Friday morning on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Ryan Brauninger inside the Rollo Insurance.
K-N-E-E? Like a knee on you, or is it like
a neon light?
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. I knew.
Well, we can't get into what you were talking about between segments, but it fit. That's why your mind went there. Inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, it's the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Olin, got to get into Aggie basketball. Big game tomorrow night.
Real big.
Longhorns coming to town. Talked to Logan Lee extensively yesterday on the show about the matchup, and he thought it favored A&M. And when you look at the conference slate, and I know Nick has got a very very structured, organized, pretty graphic for us to pop up here soon. But when you look at the conference schedule, the first 4 games, this is the one that you better win.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, this is a game that looks like you're at home, have the same record, but it looks like you played a stronger schedule. I think you're a better team than Texas. So yeah, from that perspective, it looks like the game that you have the most going for you, for lack of a better way to put it. That said, it's not going to be easy, and this is how it's going to be I guess through the whole SEC grind.
Sure,
because after Texas, you got.
I say you better win
Oklahoma, but you got to play them there, and then you got Alabama, and then Kentucky.
Yeah, and I say you better win. This team, this Aggie basketball team, is good enough to win any night they go on the floor. So yeah, you could stumble against Texas and then go on the road and beat Oklahoma. Like that's very within reason with this basketball team, given the strength of the conference and the strength of the team. But you're right. When you look at the first 4 games on this conference slate, the one that matches up most favorably just on paper right now is this one tomorrow night against the Longhorns.
Right. And again, that doesn't mean that Texas isn't good, because they are. But I think you're better than them, and you're at home. Whereas your next home game in that sketch is at Alabama. Well, Alabama is obviously better than Texas, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yes, this is the game where you have the most elements, the most indicators going your way, and yet it's not a, quote, I'm going to use it, slam dunk win by any means. I do think A&M is a better basketball team.
I think A&M is better. I think obviously they're older, they're more experienced, they've played more basketball together.
Right.
And I think over the course of an SEC slate that looks like it does right now, those are going to be key elements to just navigating the waters of this league. I've said it. I've hosted a few times in the last week or so. Right now, the SEC basketball schedule looks like a baseball one to me.
Oh yeah,
you're going to get beat. You're going to lose games.
You're swimming through shark-infested water.
Yes, and you're going to have even good nights. You can lose basketball games in this league. So it's not about as long as you don't go on one of these prolonged runs of 4 or 5 games where you don't play well. Like, it's okay to lose, come back the next day, the next time. And try to right the ship immediately and get back in the win column, because 9-9 against the league this year is going to get you a 4 or 5 seed.
Maybe so. I mean, I think a 10-8 definitely does.
Yeah.
11-7 may be a 3 seed for what A&M's already done. So it's going to be a grind. You want to get off to a fast start, especially at home and especially against Texas. So again, at home, like you just said, you're more experienced. I think you're better. You've as well as Texas has played. I think you've played an even stronger schedule to get to the same record. All those things are true.
I looked at Texas's schedule yesterday, and so obviously, A&M had.
They both played Ohio State. A&M beat Ohio State. They both played East Texas.
East Texas A&M.
Yeah.
You're still getting used to having this.
From Commerce.
From Commerce.
Where your neon guy is from.
He's not neon. But I was looking at the schedule yesterday for Texas, and, it was a good time for A&M to play some Southland Conference schools, Abilene Christian, to kind of get their legs back underneath them, especially with Wade being a little bit dinged up. But you look at Texas's schedule, OB, and it leaves a lot to be desired. In their last 4 games, since their loss to UConn, and Logan was talking about that game against UConn, who obviously back-to-back national champions, but has fallen on a little bit of tough time. They're number 25 or unranked by some of the polls right now. Logan was saying that game was a runaway, and Texas made the final score, kind of put lipstick on the pig there at the end. But since that loss on December 8th to UConn, they've beaten New Mexico State, Arkansas Pine Bluff, New Orleans, and Northwestern State.
Yeah, now I don't know. I got to admit, I don't know much about New Mexico State this year. I know that previously, excuse me, they've had a solid program there. So I don't know what they're like this year, though. I have to admit. But the bottom line is, Texas
I think they're usually the second best team in the land of enchantment, right?
Yeah, but again, I don't know what they are like this year, but 2 or 3 years ago, they were shooting.
They're 8-6 right now.
They were shooting to beat Auburn in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They've had some really good teams before. Now, again, I don't know what they're like this year. Look, I've said it. Texas has not faced the schedule that A&M has. They've got the same record, but Texas isn't as tested. I'll give you that. But they're 11-2. You don't take that for a win for granted against a team that's won 11 games.
I watched them play at NC State. Mm-hmm. That Trey Johnson kid's a good player. He's a really good player. And from a Texas perspective, I think that you're going to have a big night from a true freshman. Again, and look, I think too much is being made about the game being played with no students back in town. That place is going to be full tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that a lot of the students are making their way back up today.
Oh yeah, they can't wait to get away from their parents and get back to
they've had enough time with their. Is Quinn saying the same thing?
Oh, he's been saying it for a week. So yeah, I know. And hey, what a great excuse to leave. Hey, yeah, Mom, I'd love to stay another week, but man, Texas is coming to town. I got to be there to support the Aggies.
Well, and I think that the atmosphere inside Reed Arena is going to make it tough on Texas's young talent to get going. And Logan says that the reason he's confident in A&M's ability to have some success, especially on the defensive end of the floor, is that Texas, the ball does not move, especially if you get later in the shot clock with them. The ball tends to get stuck, and because the way A&M plays defense, he feels like they can have some success against Texas's young talent if they can get them later in the shot clock.
Well, it seems to me that no matter who they're playing, A&M consistently gets their opponent late into the shot clock.
Yes.
Now, a lot of times, seems like they'll make a shot late in the shot clock or get a foul late or things like that. But A&M also closes out a lot of those possessions with a turnover with a shot clock violation or forcing a bad shot. So I would anticipate Texas facing a lot of situations where they're trying to get a shot off before the.
I'm looking at their schedule. There's a chance that this game A&M runs off. I think A&M can beat them by 15, 20 points.
Look, A&M, if they're shooting well, look what they did at Purdue, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're shooting well and they're playing their game, yes, A&M can win comfortably. But I don't think you go to any game in the SEC and thinking,
no.
I'm going to go out and win this.
But I do think it's far more likely that A&M runs away from Texas than the vice versa, than the inverse.
Well, I would absolutely agree with you. Again, I think A&M's a better team. They're more tested.
A&M will be the best team that Texas has played by a good margin.
But here's the thing to acknowledge. I mean, you have to realize A&M has played Ohio State, Rutgers, Oregon, Purdue, Wake Forest, Texas Tech, Creighton.
Mm-hmm.
And yet now they're getting to the tough part of their schedule.
Well, and a lot of people look at the Texas schedule and say, well, you got to win over Syracuse. Syracuse is 6-7.
Yeah, they're not as they're not as good.
That was a 4-point win in was it the UKG Legends Classic? I don't even know where they played. They played it in Brooklyn, in New York, at the Barclays Center. So I think their best win is probably at NC State, no question. I'd have to look up to see.
I don't think they're in their standings for what it's worth. I don't think they're ranked. I don't think they're even ahead of. I think they're behind Wake Forest.
You're talking about NC State?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the schedule.
I don't think they have the record as good as eighth.
Eighth in the ACC. Could speak into your microphone, please.
They're eighth in. I don't think it's on.
It is.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, they're eighth in the ACC.
Okay. You think?
And where's Wake?
Fifth.
Look at that, OB. They're 8-5. NC State's 8-5. So again, this will be by far Texas's toughest game.
Mm-hmm.
Their next was the UConn game. They lost by double digits at home.
Mm-hmm.
So this is their first real road test. Like again, all the elements I'm looking at, I think A&M's going to win the game, and I think A&M could win the game by 15 to 20 points.
They could. I think A&M will win the game. I hope they win by 15 or 20. I'm not going to anticipate that. I think teams play better once they get into SEC play or conference play, no matter what conference you're in. What's the line? Respect all, fear none. I don't think there's any reason to fear Texas, but there's definitely reasons to respect them.
All right, when we come back, we're going to run our mouths. 3 things we want to see going into the weekend. We'll end the hour with Bank on It and Around Aggieland. A lot to get to here still on a Friday morning on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Is that Mark Chestnut or something?
No. Let it go. That's Tracy Lawrence.
Tracy Lawrence. He's a Texas guy, right?
I believe he's from East Texas, maybe Atlanta. He grew up in
Texas.
I think he grew up in Arkansas, though.
Oh well,
I think he's born in Texas.
If you're in Texarkana, you could be on either side of the road. And Atlanta, huh? Atlanta, Texas.
Jackrabbits.
Yeah, the Rabbits, not Jackrabbits.
Just the Rabbits.
They got the name from their coach, old coach, whose last name was Rab.
Oh, really?
Yeah, R-A-B-B.
You could retire from this job and go be an East Texas historian.
Yeah, I think I'll just retire.
We'll get you a museum. We'll get you a museum next to Mr. Warren's house in White Oak.
Man, I don't think he lives in White Oak anymore. He's just from there.
It seems like everybody gets out of there.
Somebody listens to me. Somebody listens to us is working for Kelsey Warren. Maybe a lot of people.
Okay. Well, I won't disparage Mr. Warren's name other than maybe if you got his ear, get him to hire Olin so that Olin can make a lot of money and the A&M NIL pot gets a little bigger.
Or just make a donation to the Olin Fund.
It's OE Limited.
OE, the Olin Experience Limited.
Very limited. All right, so what do we want to do here? We're running our mouths. We do have some extra time because Olin's going to join us from 9 or stick around with us from 9 to 9:15. Let's do that. Let's run our mouths. 3 things we want to see brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store where you can find Brooks, On, and Hoka shoes located in Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. I went there, bought my mom some shoes for Christmas as she recovers from her surgery. She had back surgery, so she's going to need like some really comfortable shoes to walk in. Went and got her some Brooks. The Brooks that I'm wearing are from Brazos Running Company. I really appreciate them. I go there a lot to get my shoes.
I've got a pair. They're nice.
I like my Brooks way more than my Hokas.
I like my Brooks. In fact, I need a new pair.
All right, 3 things you want to see.
Okay. They're all going to pertain to the basketball game tomorrow night. I want to see A&M do what A&M does when A&M's successful. I want to see them play really good defense. I want to see them offense, control and even dominate the offensive glass. And I want to see them get to the free throw line often, like 20 to 30 free throws somewhere attempts. Because when they're getting to the line, when they're getting offensive rebounds, and when they're playing good defense, especially, let me put this, good defense, especially at the perimeter, 3-point line, they win. So, I want to see them follow their recipe for victory.
I want to see Wade Taylor. He's going to be he's already one of the greatest Aggie basketball players of all time. I still want him to have his AC Law type of run where when the biggest games are on the line, the ball goes through Wade Taylor and he has some big time memorable moments and shots throughout this SEC slate when they get into the tournament, all that kind of stuff. I'm all in. Wade's incredible. I want Wade to start having those moments in those games tomorrow night against Texas. I'd love to see him go for 25.
Yeah. I want to hear it. Andrew Monaco coined the phrase 4 for 3. I want to hear it all night tomorrow. 4 for 3.
I want to see the college football.
Wade Taylor the fourth, so
they call
him 4. If you hit it,
I get it. You don't have to explain
4
it.
For 3.
I ain't that thick.
4 for 3.
Physically thick. Mentally, I'm not that thick.
You're a very smart guy, actually.
College football playoff committee. I want to see them. Somebody between now and these semifinal games. Somebody say, "Hey, acknowledge we screwed up the seeding."
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'll see it. I want to see it, but somebody come out and say we're changing the format of the seeding.
I'd be surprised if they don't.
They have to. They have to. All the teams that got first round byes lost. I saw a stat scrolling through Twitter that in these playoff games, the team that has recruited the best out of high school is 7-1. The only loss was by Georgia to Notre Dame. So there's still, that still lends credence to the importance of a high school recruiting, even in the transfer portal era. One more thing I'd like to see is Texas A&M football land one more interior defensive lineman. I think the addition of Tyler Onyedim yesterday from Iowa State was massively important.
Who you got in mind?
Well, they've got a kid visiting from Washington State named David Gusta.
Oh, yeah.
And
Let's see that.
And the good thing about A&M is, and under Mike Elko's tenure as a defensive coordinator, as a head coach, he rotates his defensive linemen. So while it might be traditionally tough to recruit a guy as essentially your fourth rotation interior defensive lineman, A&M can point to it and say, yeah, but this guy plays a bunch. Like, you're going to come in here and play a bunch of downs in the SEC coming from the Pacific Northwest. You're trying to improve your draft stock. You're trying to improve your overall profile. Come do it here. We're not going to beat you up where you're playing 70 snaps a game, and you're going to play and be fresh and put good stuff on tape against the best league in the country. So I'd like to see them add one more interior defensive lineman. I'm also really curious, and we're up against the break, but this Noah Thomas stuff, we'll talk about it a little bit on the other side of the 9 o'clock hour. When we come back, we got bank on it. Kay Naegeli will come in here. I think is it Kay Naegeli, Nick, that's going to do Around Aggieland? Who else would it be? So a lot to get to still in the 8 o'clock hour. We got a lot of buttons still to press. So when we come back, bank on it, Around Aggieland. Olin will stick with us on the other side of the 9 o'clock hour. We'll talk about Noah Thomas and just kind of what the A&M offense could look like with or without him in 2025. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right. Producer Nick comes in here in the commercial break and tells us that we were going to have to do some moving around because we don't have enough time to get to Around Aggieland. We'll start the 9 o'clock hour with Kay Naegeli to go around Aggieland, then finish our discussion, OB, on Noah Thomas as he continues to kind of look around in the transfer portal. Obviously, an option is for him to return to Texas A&M, but right now we got a bank on it. Presented by Vera Bank, authentic relationship banking built for life. So we'll see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more at verabank.com. Olin, what are you banking on? I'm going to go first, and I'm going to steal it.
Go ahead.
A&M beats Texas by 10 or more points.
Okay, well, I was going to say, I'm banking on 4 for 3. Look, Wade Taylor is a great player, but he's one of those players that is truly great because he frequently has his big games in A&M's big games. I go back to some games, unfortunately, they lost last year where he's scoring 30 points to keep them in it. Mm-hmm. So the bigger the game, I think the better Wade Taylor plays.
I'm pulling for him to have his. He's been incredible. Again, one of the greatest of all time. I want him to have some AC Law moments where he has those 30-point games and A&M wins, either in front of a home crowd or a hostile.
Now, don't get me wrong. He's had those games where they've won too.
Yes.
But I'm looking for Wade. I mean, Wade's won games with shots at the buzzer. He's won games because he's led the way. They've won a lot of games because of Wade Taylor.
No question.
I'm expecting to see a lot from Wade tomorrow night.
And I want to see Anderson Garcia, 15 rebounds.
All on the offensive end.
I know. It'd be great. All right, we come back, more OB, Around Aggieland. We're rolling right along on a Friday morning. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. 9 o'clock hour on TexAgs Live Friday morning. Happy Friday, all of you listening around Bryan College Station, around the internet, however you are intaking the show. We appreciate your listenership. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are inside the Rollo Insurance Studio, and we're going to go right over there to Kay Naegeli for Around Aggieland, which is presented by Norman G. State Bank. Rock solid banking. Visit normangstatebank.com. Miss Naegeli, Steve's daughter, take it away.
Steve's daughter. That's crazy. We're going to start off with some women's basketball because that was the action in Bryan College Station last night. Joni Taylor's Aggies kicked off conference play, unfortunately fell to number 15 Tennessee as they moved to 10-0. They are undefeated. There was a 22-point deficit at halftime. Things were going the Lady Vols' way, but the Aggies did fight back, brought that deficit back to 13. Honestly, it was a great comeback effort by the Aggies. Aisha Coulibaly had 20, so not a terrible way to kick off conference play. They are now 7-6, and they will host Ole Miss, who is 10-3 at Reed Arena on Sunday. The tip-off is set for 2 p.m. there. I want to talk about the soccer front a little bit. A&M enhanced its back line with the addition of defender Isabel Yackel from Portland. She is joining the Aggies as a senior. She appeared in 58 games of the Pilots' 59 matches during her 3 years there, and that included 55 starts. So a heck of a get for G. Guerreri and company over there. As Bronny has talked about, Tyler Onyedim is coming as a Richmond, Texas native. He is coming back to Texas and announced his intentions to transfer from Aggieland. He is an former Iowa State defensive lineman, played in 40 games throughout his time in Ames, and then logged 90 total tackles, 12 for loss, and forced a team-high 9 quarterback hurries. And as we talked about all day, a big one on the hardwood as A&M men's basketball will face arch rival Texas in this edition of the Lone Star Showdown. This is the first time since December 8th in 2019 when Texas won 60-50. Also, Texas has won 6 of the last 7 matchups in the hardwood. So Buzz Williams, Wade Taylor look to take care of business there. That will be on Saturday on SC Network at 7 p.m. So make sure you catch all the action there.
Thank you, Kay.
Of course.
OB, that was a good segue into transfer portal discussion. We continue on about Noah Thomas and his decision to leave Texas A&M. Well, potentially leave Texas A&M. He's entered the transfer portal. Heard he's been setting up visits. Maybe go take a look at Penn State. All those kind of things. I think in a ideal world, Olin A&M gets him back, and he's a part of this receiving corps with Marcel Reed. And the reason why I think that's ideal is not only for the Aggies, but I think that's ideal for Noah. And I think if you look at Noah Thomas's career at Texas A&M, there's been a revolving door both at quarterback and offensive coordinator, right? This, if he returns to College Station for his senior season, will be the first time he plays in the same offense with the same quarterback that over the last few weeks of the season, he built a really good rapport with. And I think that him playing in an offense that he knows is going to allow him to play faster, it's going to allow him to be more comfortable in what he's doing, and I think it will result in greater production and greater efficiency, not only for Noah, but for the entire offense. I think A&M, look, they had to go out and they had to bring in high-level, highly talented, skilled receivers. They did that. None of those kids, Kevin Concepcion, Mario Craver, Micah Hudson, none of them have played in Colin Klein's offense. Noah Thomas has. Noah Thomas has put up numbers in Colin Klein's offense. I think it's an important it's a two-way street of importance for Noah to return to Texas A&M.
Well, I think you can make
your mic's not even on. What'd you do?
I think you can make a lot of arguments as to why it makes sense for Noah to return. However, there's only one person that matters, and it's Noah. And I hope he comes back. And I think that what you were mentioning, all the guys that have not that are going to be here that have not played in the offense, but it's my feeling that those guys actually help Noah.
Sure,
a lot, because if they've got some guys that can now stretch the field, and Noah's not drawing the majority of the attention, then I think he's going to get some great matchups. Now, I know Penn State,
Miami, Georgia.
Those are teams that with higher profiles right now, and maybe that's will lure you there.
I don't know, man. Like I think the reason he's in the transfer portal is that he's looking for more footballs. I don't know that Penn State's the answer for more footballs. I don't know that Georgia. I don't even know what Georgia or Miami's quarterback situation is going to like. And does Drew Aller come back to Penn State?
Well, you know what? I'm not. Even if he does, and call this provincial if you want. I'm not so sure.
Provincial. That's a big word for you.
Yeah.
See how you get sidetracked when somebody jumps in with something smart?
It's fine. Anything more than 3 syllables or more than 2 syllables is a big word for me. I'm not so sure that his best quarterback option isn't Marcel.
It could be.
I mean, look, Drew Aller has thrown for almost 3,200 yards, but he's played more games. He's averaged, he threw for I'm looking at his numbers. He threw for 309 against Kent State and 391 against USC. But 204 against Bowling Green, 135 against Illinois, 148 Wisconsin, 146 Ohio State, 171 Maryland, 127 in that game against SMU, 170. It's not like, he's going to one of those offenses where they're just throwing the ball around all the time.
Yeah, and again, I don't.
If he goes to Penn State.
Right, and Penn State's among a bunch of schools that are making pushes from what we've heard.
I can understand.
It doesn't sound like Texas is there yet. From the latest update I got yesterday, sounded like Texas was maybe, I guess, doing a little digging would be the best way to describe it, but they weren't all in making a run at him. I'll be really interested to see where he goes on visits, and then start doing what you just did: compare quarterback play and potential targets and all that kind of stuff that he's looking for with what he could be coming back to. And I just, you try not to look through it through maroon-colored glasses with this thing, but I mean, for the opportunity to play with a guy that in Marcel and play in an offense that under Colin Klein for the first time in your career as a senior, when the light bulb has gone on and you've kind of understand what preparing yourself for a season in this league looks like. I think his best numbers, if I had to roll the dice on this thing, I'd roll the dice with A&M.
I would too. I don't even think it's more of a roll of the dice.
You're playing the odds, right?
The way I look at it is if he could have 34 catches this year, is it 34 for Noah? I don't have the stats in front of me, but about 34. He caught, I think, almost 600 yards of receiving yardage, I think.
Well, he ended the season.
He had 8 touchdowns.
Yeah. He ended the season
Somebody's
very
yelling something. I don't know what they're saying. But, all right, I got it right here. Noah Thomas, 39 catches, 574, 8 touchdowns. I think those numbers are going to go up on their own just from having more help around it.
Yeah, and I mean, that could get to 55.
I would say 55 and 710 aren't out of the realm of possibility.
Right. And if he does that, then you're going to feel really good about the direction of – and that was what A&M set out to do in this transfer portal window, is bring in some guys that could enhance the way they threw the football and enhance the way they attacked down the field vertically, offensively, but also did the stuff that Colin Klein likes to do, with the mesh routes and the crossers, and just enhance the overall passing game. And athletically, they've done that. But I still think you need a guy that's got some experience and knows – look, you could go into the transfer portal and probably – especially with some of these teams losing, or these bowl games ending, or these playoff teams that are losing, there may be a high-end guy that goes in. But I don't know that you're going to have a high-end guy that goes in that's going to be as comfortable for Marcel Reed as Noah Thomas. In fact, I'd bet that there won't.
Well, once again, I feel good, better than I have in a long time, about A&M's receiving room. And I hope Noah's part of that. I think they're going to be really good with the guys they brought in regardless. But I think Noah, for many reasons, and the number one reason is he's good. I think he would obviously enhance that, but I think they're going to be fine regardless of the situation.
Let's do a way too early look at spring football. In spring football, I think we have to cover it. It's extremely overrated aspect to cover. But you have to try to look for some things in spring football, because
I think
what else
spring
is your
football and I agree with you, it's overrated in sports, but I think it has gotten more important with the introduction of the transfer portal.
You have to get guys up to speed and comfortable as quick as you can. What are some of the very early storylines that'll be kind of attracting your attention?
Oh, just look everywhere where A&M struggled last year and see how you're going to be upgraded. What are the new receivers going to look like? What are you doing to improve that secondary? Can you improve? What about the pass rush? Where's that going to come from? It seems like every other game, Mike was talking about, well, that was a big run because we keep missing our fits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you doing to get over that problem?
Yeah, but I don't know if you can answer that question.
No, but
right?
Do you feel like you're making progress?
I think you get spring football is good to get a really good look at the athletic standing of the team, right? What did you bring in at receiver? Here's a position that nobody's talked about. What did you bring in at tight end? I talked to a industry contact yesterday that said Nate Burkature, the tight end they brought in from Nebraska. Mm-hmm. First of all, we know from talking to sources in Lincoln, nobody wanted him to leave. In fact, Dana Holgorsen thought that he would be a key piece of their offense next year. I heard yesterday that late in the season, the last couple of weeks, there was some real NFL, like the NFL was sending more people to Nebraska to look at this kid. So A&M may have gotten their hands on a kid who's just now on the up and up in terms of kind of filling out his frame, getting to his full athletic potential. That's a position between Burkature and Mike O'Reilly, and there may be another one out there. I think tight end's a position where if the right guy goes in, everybody on the message boards are clamoring for, you got to go get a receiving tight end, guy that's a threat in the passing game. And I'm like, okay, I don't disagree with that, but who is it? You can't just say we got to go to the portal and get a linebacker. Well, what if there's no good linebackers in the portal?
Well, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can say that A&M needs to go address these issues in the portal, but if there's not people that answer the questions, then what are you going to do?
But I get, you're talking about, well, what are you going to be looking for in spring football? And I'm saying, well, you're bringing in these guys to fill problems.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, specifically with people wanting a linebacker or people wanting another edge rusher. What if there's not a guy in there that's better than anything you got?
Well, then why would you? Then the question is, all right, why, coach? Can we feel like you're going to be better at fitting the gaps?
Well, the answer would be, well, hopefully a year in the system and a year learning exactly how we want it done will kind of mitigate that instead of bringing a whole new body in that we don't know anything about.
And then the questions after that is, moving forward is, okay, what during spring football did you see? What indications did you see that would make you feel like that they're making progress?
Well, I do think they need another interior defensive lineman, but of the kids they just signed out of high school, all but one.
Where's the pass rush going to come from?
That's a good question. Well, you hope that Dayon Hayes and TJ Searcy and Sam Impemba and Cassius Howell and Solomon Williams and Ryland Kennedy, you're hoping, and maybe one of these freshmen. That's where I was going, was that this freshman class, Marco Jones has a chance because of his skill set, because of his size and power, to maybe get into that rotation. Chase Sims, DJ Sanders, Landon Rink, I think one of those is going to get into the defensive tackle rotation. I just watched Landon Rink, who the knock on him was that he was too short to play defensive tackle. What a ridiculous thing to say whenever you look at some of the best defensive tackles that have played in the last 5 to 10 years in the NFL. They're not these big 6'6" dudes.
No.
A lot of them are 6'1" to 6'3". And that's where Landon Rink fits. And oh, by the way, the kid went out to Orlando at the Under Armour All-American game and played against the best high school offensive lineman in the country in his age and dominated the game yesterday. Was one of the standout performers from everybody that was there, that watched the game, that watched the practices. Landon Rink keeps popping up on top performers list. The kid is so far along in a technical proficiency standpoint, quickness, power. He's got his name plastered all over the record books in the weight room at Cy-Fair High School. He's going to come in and be closer to ready to play than anybody else in that defensive line class because of those qualities. That being said, Chase Sims also had just a sensational senior season. So with kind of the emergence of Chase as everybody went from, man, he's a powerful kid, he's going to be a good player down the road, to this kid could play next year. And then obviously with what we've seen out of Landon, like one of those guys, and then the upside of DJ Sanders, which is through the roof. I mean, he's got a chance, may not have a chance to play first, but he's got a chance to play the longest of those guys they're bringing in on the defensive front. So between those three, I'd bet one of them can come in and help you.
But it's been my experience, and yeah, sometimes you get a Myles Garrett come in as a freshman and do some great things. But it's my experience, though. If you're counting on a true freshman.
No. See, this is where people misunderstand the point. No way did I say, are you counting on them? I said they can crack the rotation and give you something down the depth chart. Same reason, like Noah McHale at linebacker. Are you going to go find a portal linebacker that's more athletically gifted than Noah McHale? Probably not.
I'm just asking, where's the pass rush going to come from?
Well, I gave you all those names.
Yeah, but look, I know.
But what I'm saying is, like, if it doesn't come from those names, then it's not coming.
Right.
So
exactly.
Some of those guys, somebody's going to have to play and play well. Mm-hmm. And Cassius Howell's a good player.
Yeah.
And I think Ryland Kennedy, we've seen bits and flashes of him being a really effective pass rusher. He's got to get better. But when you're asking me about Deion Hayes or TJ Searcy or Salmon Pimp, I don't know. That's right. And that's why you'll get a better look at stuff like that in the spring. And I don't think that in the spring you're going to determine whether their run fits are going to be any better. That's going to happen in the fall in live game action.
Well, that's true. And it doesn't matter if they do look good in the spring.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, you're asking what are the storylines, and I'm saying, well, they are how you address the areas of weakness, and are you seeing anything, Coach, that would lead you to believe that you're making progress in those areas?
Yep. All right, I appreciate you sticking around for an extra segment. We're going to go to the hardwood. John Pugliese for a segment on the other side on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Jason Howell joins us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk a lot more transfer portal and A&M off to an incredibly hot start on the high school ranks in the 2026 recruiting class. So a lot more to get to here in the 9 o'clock hour of TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, let's talk some hoops here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the Rollo Insurance Studios. We're going out to the Boss Firearms Hotline to talk to a great friend of the program and a guy that knows way more about basketball than I probably do about anything in my life, Mr. John Pugliese. Pugs, happy Friday morning, dude. Happy New Year.
Man, that's an intro. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Happy New Year.
All right, so everybody is kind of looking forward to what's going on, or what's going to happen tomorrow night at Reed Arena. Texas Longhorns come into town. But let's start with this, John. With A&M at this point, this juncture of the season, do you have an idea of what kind of basketball team that Buzz Williams has, and does it match what you thought he had going into the preseason?
I think that Buzz Williams has done a really good job with this team. I think this team is performing better at this point in the year than I thought they would perform at this point of the year, because we haven't seen an Aggie team perform like this during Buzz's tenure earlier in the season, right? So, like, we've seen them play really well at the end of the year. We've seen them be really good in SEC play. But we haven't seen his team put it together. I think the way that we're seeing this team put it together. And so that is the impressive part to me. And so I would say, no, I didn't expect this at this point of the year. And seeing the way that they're playing, the chemistry, the way that this team is coming together with the newer players, it's an impressive group.
What has impressed you the most about it, where maybe there is a little bit difference, or maybe they're playing at a little higher level than you anticipated?
I think, I said this last time we talked, Brownie. I think it's the role definition. Role definition in college basketball was always hard. It's even harder now with transfers in the transfer portal. Okay. And how many guys leave, these programs, and just the rollover, the turnover, of the rosters. I'm impressed with the way that this team looks like they know what they're supposed to do, and every guy on the roster knows the role that they're in, and then they are performing to that role. Like the old coaching adage is star in your role. Right? Well, that's easier said than done when you're talking to a bunch of 18 to 23-year-olds, right? Because everyone wants to be a star. They don't necessarily want to star in their role. They just want to be a star. Well, this team looks like they're just good with starring in their role. And so for a roster of players to be willing to star in their role, I'm impressed. I think that's the point that sticks out to me, that I'm like, all right, he's got a group here who can do some damage. I don't know what that equates to at the end of the year. College basketball is wild. You watch all these teams who are getting upset, and Kansas has lost a bunch of games. I don't know what to expect at the end of the year, but I know right now this is a fun team to watch, and this team is putting together what looks to be a really special season for A&M hoops.
Yeah, there's still benefit to being old and having guys that have been in your program. I know everybody wants to go pluck out of the transfer portal in every sport, but there is still a lot of benefit and getting kids out of high school, developing them in your program, and then watching them flourish. And that's where your culture is built, is around those guys that have been around Buzz Williams for 3 to 4 years. And so, to me, Pugs, this is not the most surprising start, because this was kind of what I anticipated looking at this roster was, okay, the slow starts of the past, they should be mitigated by this roster, right?
I mean, I would agree. I think, I from Buzz Williams' perspective, give this guy some chops. He's kept his roster around when no one else in the country has been able to keep a roster around. Mm-hmm. Wade Taylor has stuck it out here, right? Henry Coleman, while he was a transfer, he stayed. Hayden Hefner, all these guys, they have stayed when they have gotten here. Hassan Diarra is the only guy that I with a light bulb right now, and what I'm thinking about, who to me was impactful, that left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's an impressive feat for a college basketball program at this point of where we are in college basketball. So, yeah, I think there's a real benefit to the way that he's put this team together. I also think this is the year for them to win, and I'm really excited about what they're doing and where they are as a program. And really, for me, it's kind of the maturation of what they've done over the last couple of years, and how they are really playing defensively. And then they're stringing that into stops to scores, right? You get a stop, you get a score, then you can go on a run. You can't go on a run if you're trading baskets. So it's the maturation of how this team has put things together that's been really impressive to me.
All right, let's look at tomorrow night, Texas A&M and Texas inside Reed Arena. The Longhorns come in with an 11-2 record, but a bottom 10 strength of schedule in the country. As you start to look at this game, and for a lot of the 12th man, a lot of the A&M fan base, this is a really big one, even though it's game 1 of 18 in this, what looks to be a gauntlet of a league.
I mean, that's why it's big, right? It's big because this is the first game in SEC play. The SEC has 14 teams who are, 10-2 or better. This is just kind of a wild situation that we're seeing the SEC in. So that's why it's important for this team to start off well. I think this Longhorns team is a good team. While they play, a bottom level non-conference schedule at this point, their losses to Ohio State and UConn are really the only teams who, you would say okay, this is a big game for them. Everyone else is, Syracuse was a 4-point win, but other than that, it's not a real impressive slate. I think this is a big game because it's the first one, and in my opinion, that is Buzz's message right now. This is a big game because this is the first one of the year, and because there isn't a team in the SEC who's got 3 losses besides South Carolina. I mean, think about that at this point in the year. So if you're starting SEC play and you want to make a run and you want to make the conference tournament, you want to be one of those 10 teams, which SEC probably will get 10 teams in this year unless everyone just absolutely annihilates each other and you lose one and you win one versus everybody in the league, which will never happen. You've got to start off with a win here, and you've got to put yourself in a position to be successful through SEC play. And A&M at, what are we right now, 13, and that might be low considering how we played. If you're A&M, you can't lose to a schedule like Texas has put together. For more reasons than just that, it's really important that you just start here with the W.
And how do you anticipate this one playing out?
I think A&M wins this game. I think you shut down Trey Johnson, or Kaluma or Pope, Texas has, a handful of guys who can go get a basket. What A&M does really well is they put their energy into that one guy, right? So they really do a good job of finding that faucet who drips and turning it off, right? So what, in my opinion, you'll see a focus on a few of their of Texas's players. You'll do a really good job on the glass. You'll get some runouts early, get to the line. I think Wade Taylor has a big game because you focus on Wade Taylor getting off early and putting him in a position to be successful. And honestly, Ronnie, the way that things have played out over the course of the last couple games with different guys having to step up because of injuries or guys taking a rest, whatever it is, that's a really great thing going into this game. And so I think A&M wins this game. I think it launches them into SEC play, into, what you mentioned is a gauntlet of SEC play. And quite frankly, I think Texas is probably one of the bottom teams in the SEC. But they're still going to beat some teams. So, you've got to come to play. You've got to win your home games in the SEC. I really hope Reed Arena can be packed for this game. I think that's an important thing for this Aggie team to have is a home court advantage when you're talking about games that are going to be decided by so few points.
Pugs, I appreciate your time, dude. Enjoy your weekend, and Happy New Year again.
Thanks, Bronny.
All right, that's a great friend of the program, John Pugliese, getting us ready for Texas A&M versus Texas on the hardwood tomorrow night inside Reed Arena. When we come back, we'll switch back to football recruiting talk. We didn't have a recruiting country this week. Not saying that this is going to be recruiting country. It might be, Nick. Who knows? We're just doing this on the fly. It's a B-team version of TexAgs Live. Jason Howell joins the program for 2 segments, get you right up to the 10 o'clock hour. We're anticipating Billy Liucci joining the show for the second day in a row. A lot more to get to here. Rolling right along on a Friday morning. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. man, I get choked up when I get to see Jason Howell's beautiful bald head on a Friday morning. This is Ryan Brauninger inside the Rollo Insurance Studios, the TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, and an impromptu meeting with the producers back behind the screen. We are going to do This Is Recruiting Country. So This is this week's version of Recruiting Country on Wednesday. Obviously, no show due to New Year. Happy New Year, Jason. But this is going to be Recruiting Country, and we have some stuff to talk about over the final 20 minutes of this hour. So let's start with yesterday's news. Texas A&M adds another commitment via the transfer portal from Tyler Onyedim out of Iowa State, a Richmond Foster High School product. He will reunite with his high school teammate Ruben Fothery and come to College Station for his final year of eligibility. Jason, a position in need. A&M had to go get some big bodies on the interior. Not only did they get a big body, they got a big productive body in Tyler Onyedim.
Yeah, 4-year contributor. He was honorable mention All Big 12 in 2023, which was his most productive season in Ames. But 33 tackles in 24, 90 career tackles in his 4 years, and he's a guy that's worked up and down the line, brings a lot of size. Everybody's been wondering where are we going to get some help outside of these edge guys. We need some bigger bodies, and 6'4", 295, I think, answers that call. He's a guy from Texas, bringing him back, like you said, from the Houston area, this is one that A&M. Again, we say this a lot, and I'm not just saying it because the portal action happens really quickly, but when he jumped into the transfer portal, A&M was immediately associated with him, and the Aggies were able to secure his services over some really big competition in the likes of Texas and Notre Dame.
Yeah, and both of those guys are both of those teams came hard after Tyler, based off all the conversations I'd had with his former high school head coach, who was kind of doing a good job with keeping us in the loop of Tyler's next move. He stayed close to Tyler after he had gone up to Ames. But that was a position that A&M had to go find at least one. I think they probably need another one, Jason, although, and this is a good segue into just the entire defensive line group now. When you lose Scorton, Stewart, and Turner, you got to replace them. And, they went out in the portal, and they got Dayon Hayes. They got T.J. Searcy, Salmon Pemba, now Onyedim. But with what we've seen out of this high school incoming group of the class of 25, there's enough there. I'm convinced now that there's enough there that somebody, one of them, can break into this rotation and provide you with some depth if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, you're going off of what you saw yesterday with Landon Rink. I said this morning in my 3 things, like that was arguably the most consistent and productive performance of anybody at the Under Armour All-American game. He led everybody. I think there was one other guy, a linebacker, that had 4 solo tackles. He led Team Icon with 4 total tackles and had the most tackles for loss in that performance there. So in a really good group of defensive linemen, you heard Landon Rink's name over and over again. And it wasn't just even outside of those tackles. And he was constantly providing pressure. He was, getting down the line and forcing cutbacks, and he was getting downfield. He was all over the place. You guys have gotten to see that over the last year or so in person. And it was fun for me to see it, on the big stage there, just him really shine bright. And, we've talked about Chase Sims. He's coming off one of his a great senior season and a phenomenal state championship game where Randall was able to pull out the big win over South Oak Cliff in the 5A Division II championships. I don't know how much. I wouldn't sit here, and you don't want to see those guys on the field as, you're at least early on as
you don't want to be in a
really
position.
You don't
want to be in a position where you have to play them. Like if they force their way onto the field, That's a different story.
And they have the skill set. They play with great pad level and energy, and they're both big. And we haven't even talked about DJ Sanders, who has the most upside of any of them, if you ask me, and is the most highly rated of those guys because of that. This D-line group as a whole, especially when you throw Marco Jones in there, you've got a really, really strong group. And watching Rink and Sims, and you're going to see Sims in a week or so, week and a half in San Antonio at the Navy All-American Bowl, where he's expected to get out there on the field and do some work himself in an All-American setting. So it should be fun to keep an eye on with those guys. But yeah, I like what they brought in the freshman class and what they're doing. You don't want to count on them, but they do have the potential to really make some headway on that depth chart.
Yeah, and I think, again, an ideal scenario is that they add another interior defensive lineman if there's the right guy out there, right? And they got David Gusta on campus from Washington State, one of the more highly coveted defensive tackles remaining on the board. So, yeah, I do think that there's
some stiff competition there, too.
Oh, for sure.
He's looking at Tennessee and Kentucky, 6'3", 302. But, yeah, definitely one of the most highly coveted defensive tackles in the portal right now.
So if A&M's able to get that one over the line, you'd feel outstanding about what they've done on the defensive line. You know, if you want to be super nitpicky, maybe one more edge rusher. But, again, like I was talking with Olin, you can say, hey, A&M needs a pass receiving tight end. Well, what if that guy's not in the portal? Like, what do you – then you got to go with what you got to hope that Theo takes the next step. I got a great report on Nate Burkhardt yesterday in terms of what he could be as a receiver. So the fans can say, well, A&M needs this. Well, what if it's not out there? You can't just throw a body at it.
And you also have to trust your processes of development and what you're doing. And hopefully you brought in a bunch of guys over the last couple years that can be a part of your future. And like I said, if it's not out there, it's got to be on campus, or you got to develop it. And you have some guys that have some promise there.
It's a big offseason for Dalen Evans.
Solomon Williams. We saw, some of those guys in the bowls take on, show some flashes there and get those practices.
That's why I think it's a big offseason for Dalen Evans.
Yeah,
I do. Like, he could be an impact player on the interior of your defensive line if he's right. He's big, he's athletic, he's powerful. If the light bulb comes on for Dalen, he's right there in the mix of that defensive tackle rotation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's right for some people to step up, and this is what's fun and scary about college football. You're counting on some unknowns, because these guys, they come in as some of them as highly touted recruits, and then they kind of, they don't go off the radar, but they're not as counted on, and so you don't hear their names as much. But you're hopeful that those guys can step up and make those steps, and your program continues, and that's what you have to be a championship level program that A&M wants to be. You have to develop those guys. You can't just rely on a portal addition, because, as you see, they're not always out there. Those pieces aren't always there. And they do have some really, really intriguing pieces on campus. And, I don't know how many spots do they have left where they could add another guy.
Well, look, we're up against the break. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about available spots, and maybe if we got time, look ahead at some 2026 stuff that the Aggies have got going on. More with Jason Howell on the other side of the break. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I got a few more minutes to talk with Jason Howell here on TexAgs Live on a Friday morning, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Jason, we were talking about like portal spots allocation, like what's still remaining out there for A&M. I think very few, regardless of what happens with Noah Thomas. Yeah. But if Noah Thomas does not return, I do think them taking another wide receiver is on the table. Outside of that, it gets kind of, we talked interior defensive line, maybe a best available, but there's not many spots left.
No, I agree. You're looking at 2 to 3 at most. And even then, you may have, it may be Noah not coming back. That causes some of that room, or even somebody else potentially, I guess. I don't know. But I think that window is actually kind of closed. So barring somebody, putting their name in and it not coming out just yet, I don't anticipate anything.
Well,
new.
DB is another. We haven't talked DB. They could probably add one more as well.
Yeah. Well, and they do have the Christian Harrison that they've been looking at, that was on campus as well. So. You could see targets continue to develop, but I don't see a ton more additions. This, like last year, A&M was just ramping up. You were tomorrow will be the 1-year anniversary of Nick Scorton's commitment to Texas A&M. And so that was really when the ball got rolling, and you had that huge weekend where, 13 or so commitments happened in a matter of like 4 or 5 days, from Thursday to like Tuesday or whatever it was.
A&M's not in a position where they have to do that. Thank God for us.
Yeah, exactly. You may be able to kick back and watch some basketball and catch up on whatever TV series you've been.
I'm on Peaky Blinders right now.
There you go. Hey, loved it. Yeah. So you may have a chance to do some of that, but I don't see a whole lot more movement. And if you want to, I guess my point was, if you want another edge guy, does that come at the expense of one of the edge guys that's already on your roster?
Yeah.
Or is that at another position?
Hey, Jason, we got to go. We're up against the hour break. Yeah. Jason Howell on the other side, Billy Liucci, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, as a reminder, the final segment of our show is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50 a.m. But right now, we're going to give away your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or one large, one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. Serving Aggieland Beyond since 1984, serving up your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls with reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on the way. That's caller 12 at 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. Call now. The pizza will be yours if you are caller number 12 as we await the arrival of Billy Liucci, or is he coming on the phone? Nick, yes, no, maybe?
Well, we got to wait for that pizza giveaway. We need people to call in and get that pizza, and then after we're done with that, we can get him on the phone. But I bet he'll be here by then. Okay.
I just didn't even know. I told him that I had 10 o'clock open, and he said, let's do it. And then that was the last we talked about it. As usually, that's like a typical Billy Liucci conversation. So I don't know if he's coming in or on the phone or whatever. I'm just hoping that he'll be on the program. If you want to interact with the show, put Callie Garner to work. Do we have anything, Callie, in the Angry Elephant Nugent Social Center?
We have a text from a 402 number in Nebraska, and he says, you guys are getting a baller in Nate Borkacher. He came on at the end of the season at Nebraska after getting looked over all season.
Yeah, it matches what we'd heard out of folks that cover that program in Lincoln. Just, I wrote it on the site this week. There are going to be a couple of these kids that they brought in via the transfer portal that are going to be pretty good indicators of what A&M's got in their scouting department. And I don't attribute they had some misses in the last transfer portal window, but they were in such a scramble mode that it's hard for me to attribute any misses, to them specifically in terms of how they do their job of scouting and poring over video and statistics and measurables and all the things that go into player analysis across the street. They did make a lot of really good evals. And you look at, there were some people kind of scratching their head when they took Marcus Ratcliffe, for instance. And Marcus Ratcliffe ended up being a really good player. People thought Shane Calhoun was just kind of a throw-in at the end of that last spring portal window. And Shane Calhoun played a lot of football at A&M. I know he didn't have a lot of stats, but he was on the field a lot. And just in that tight end room, you look at what they've done so far in the transfer portal with the additions of Mike O'Reilly and Nate Borkacher. And you're going, okay, like those stats on those kids aren't eye-catching at all. But that's not what Mike O'Reilly was brought in to do. Shane Calhoun left, and you felt like you really had to go out and replace him in his role in the running game with somebody that could do that job better. And Mike O'Reilly comes in with 2 years of eligibility left. He's 6'5", almost 270 pounds. He's bigger than Shane Calhoun. He's more athletic than Shane Calhoun. Did you upgrade that position? I'm not sitting there answering that in the affirmative. We'll know that as we start to watch them a little bit in spring ball, but obviously we'll know that once the games start happening. Same deal with Nate Borkacher. That was a guy that didn't put up eye-catching numbers at Nebraska, but everybody that you talk to that knows more about that program and more about that kid than we do talks about his upside and just what he was turning into as a Cornhusker. And Dana Holgerson didn't want to lose him. So, and the fact that we found out yesterday that there were NFL scouts starting to be sent there to look at him and give him a grade. Oh, he's in a hurry this morning. A little pep in your step.
Well,
what's going on?
It's my new mattress from the sleep station.
Oh, Jared McLeod.
Woo!
No,
I'm kidding. I haven't got it yet, but I'm excited to get it. I feel like when that happens, I will be coming in here like either that or I'm just going to be super late because I'm just like sinking into that.
What kind of mattress did you big?
What do you mean big? King, yeah.
So I have a California King, and I love it.
You would.
Well, I mean,
you're so tall, you need that extra length there.
It's built like a square. Why is he in here?
I don't even know who that is. Oh, it's the Clipper.
What's he got for you?
He looks like freaking, what is this? John Cusack over here? You gonna come in here with you gonna come in here holding a radio over your head?
Did you send him to buy your mattress? What is that?
Don't worry about it. You're asking a lot of questions.
Well, he walked in here while I'm hosting the radio show.
It's kind of unnecessary for him to walk in. It was a little wild to just walk in. Wow.
He's a angry little man. Callie, I don't know how y'all deal with
He
it.
is pretty angry. He is pretty angry. You know, he got like a lot of, because everybody attacked him after the Omaha thing for like a few hours. And, we had his back when push came to shove. You and I both were like, no. And, and then the way when Slosh left and people realized how it really went down, he became not a sympathetic figure. Well, there was a little sympathy there, like, man, he got it bad. They don't realize this is an angry young man, Richard Zane.
You think he's angry that the 15 minutes of Zane have run out and maybe it don't return until
might have a plan.
week 1 at Bluebell?
He might be back.
We got to be tracking his first question to Mike Early after their first loss. He might be trying to get back on the radar. We have to warn Coach Early.
Say they're losing, dude. I'm telling Early on you.
They're going to lose once.
I can't wait for baseball, but what I really can't wait for is basketball.
I know. We got to talk. We didn't talk. You were on it for an hour and a half yesterday. We didn't talk hoops.
Well, that's why I'm here today.
Well, we got to talk hoops, and we got to talk Tyler Onyedim, and there's still more portal stuff to talk about.
Absolutely.
But let's start with hoops. Big one tomorrow night. We had Logan Lee on yesterday, talked to John Pugliese today, just kind of about the ins and outs of the matchup. And both of them are really kind of bullish on A&M's chances of how this A&M team, matches up with a Texas team that is talented, but they are young and they haven't played a soul. UConn.
And they lost them both. Ohio State.
Yeah.
Who, it's been a little up and down, but Ohio State beat Texas handily. It feels like a lifetime ago. They beat Kentucky. I think they beat Kentucky handily. Ohio State did. That's kind of all they've played, right? Ohio State and UConn. And UConn wasn't playing good ball at that time themselves. But look, I think we know Texas can beat A&M, especially with Johnson being as special as he is. But I think Texas A&M is a better basketball team. I think they've been so far. It's not debatable. I think they will be throughout the course of this season. I think this is the benefit of what Buzz Williams has built. A veteran basketball team, and now they are a product of their schedule. He really challenged this team with this schedule this year. So
he should be commended for that. Because remember a couple of years ago when they didn't get in, and he
fixed it.
Yeah, he said he was going to, and he did.
And I think for a while there, he's wondering if he overdid it. So last year, he was wondering if he overdid it, but he did it again. And he did it with a veteran basketball team. They didn't have to have this 11-2 record, and they still would have been all right playing that schedule. But like he's talked about a lot with me, like there's some nerves there that you can lose too much and kind of almost like stunt the growth of your team.
Or stagger the confidence.
But and that's what I mean, stunt the growth through confidence.
Yeah.
But, and then all of a sudden they're feeling pressure because the record says one thing. But it worked because I think, he's so unorthodox and he's so big on the mental game that I think when you do that with a veteran basketball team that's been through it and understand, like this is like the perfect storm of a Buzz Williams basketball team. Whether they win or lose Saturday, whether they finish first or sixth in the conference, they're going to be a threat in March because of this experience, because they have some star caliber at the top with Wade Taylor, and then just all these pieces, man, he has put together. When you look at this team, like you got Andy Garcia, and then you got Henry, then you've got the slasher scorer in Zurich, and you've got, Anderson, Henry, the two portal guys, Pharrell Payne coming in and giving them a whole different thing now. There's just so many.
He's the most dynamic low post player that Buzz has had.
Yeah, I mean, Nebo was pretty, but Payne's more of just a longer, more of like an NBA looking dude. Nebo was just kind of a freak.
He moves more like Rob Williams than.
He's an NBA body and athlete, right? And he hasn't had that down low. So all that to be said, this goes for the whole SEC, really. The gap is rarely ever going to be high enough or wide enough in any game that you can just assume that one team's going to win. And you're, like, in other words, the gap between Texas and A&M, when you look at the athletes and the talent Texas has and their star player who gets you 30, they scare you. But playing at home, it's a game A&M needs to win, and I think they will. But they're going to have to go, and without question, in a rivalry game, the Aggies going to have to play well. Is it tomorrow? I've lost track of the days.
Yes.
Tomorrow's Saturday. They're going to have to play well tomorrow, and I think they will. I think they will.
But I do think, too, because of Texas's schedule, this is their first real road test. I mean, they went and won at NC State. That's a good win, but NC State's not great.
No, that's just a...
It's more of a name recognition kind of win, and they were coming off that NCAA tournament run. But this version of NC State's not that great. This is the first time they've been on the road, and they're talented, but they're young. And I think that this is, and especially when you look at the SEC schedule, of this first couple of weeks in the league, this is one that if you're trying to get to 10, 11 wins, you need to win this one.
Yeah,
but you could lose and go on the road to Norman and win that one too.
I get you're right, and we also understand that we're going to be doing this. Look at that schedule. We're going to be doing this all year. There's not easy on that schedule. So really, it's almost like baseball, Brawny.
That's what we've been saying.
You have to win your home games. Like
9-9's a good. It's a pretty decent. Goal to get to. You obviously want to win every time, but 9-9.
Win the conference. This team could win the conference.
Sure.
There are a lot of teams. Now, I think, look, Auburn is to me at the tip top, and Tennessee.
More than Tennessee? Okay.
Yeah, those two are I think there's separation there. When you say who are the best teams in the league, I think those two, and the rankings say it too, but if you watch them, you see that, that they're at the tip top, right? But
Florida
looks good.
I know.
And that coach, just no one's even talking about his antics anymore, are they? They just you win a bunch of games.
There was a football coach that won a game last night that nobody talked about his antics either.
Yeah.
Off the field.
Well, they're starting to. With that football coach, they're starting to. And I'm just telling you, I say this all the time, and I've said it about certain coaches along the way, and I see it on the boards. You guys know, I said it about Art Briles. I said it about Chris Beard. I said it about Will Wade, your boy over there at McNeese.
Winning games.
Hey, I'm not talking about, on some level I am talking about how I feel about them, the way they operate their business, but I'm just talking about it's coming. They're going, the rent is going to be due. And it's going to catch up to him. I said that about those three people, didn't I? And I said it repeatedly. And people were getting so frustrated on the A&M side because Baylor kept winning. And I'm not talking about the legal side and what I haven't read up. I'm just saying it's coming. The reckoning was coming in Waco. It was coming in Austin or Lubbock, wherever it caught up to him first. And it was coming in Baton Rouge. In terms of the, not so much what Will Wade was doing, but the paying guys.
Yeah.
It was, and it catches up. And I don't know what's going to catch up over there in Oxford, but I just think you can see this coming, and I think you start to see the public perception shifting a little bit.
Well, the Florida basketball stuff, it just has completely disappeared. For a couple of days, I was getting
wild.
Yeah,
Thought he was done. He thought that guy was going to be fired by week's end.
And there were people that I talked to that
at Florida,
that were this is a bad deal, and all of a sudden it's gone. It's crazy.
I love your little Florida connection. You've got this little
in circle. They give me good info.
Yeah,
you hate it.
My group, I've got all the name people at Florida, and they don't know crap. They don't know anything.
You got to get all the people that'll dive in the weeds, man.
Got all the big namers over there, and I kind of like. I'm kind of like. I don't root for Florida. But I like to see them win. With obviously rarely. Actually, it does affect A&M. The Aggies have kind of owned the Gators. twice in Omaha, 2 out of 3 in hoops last year. They finally caught the Aggies in the SEC tournament. And in football.
Football's been a little A&M's had the better since
what
they've
is
been
it,
in the SEC.
Are they 3-2 or is it 2-2? 3-2.
A&M lost the first game and then they lost at home.
They beat them in the swamp twice and beat them in 2020.
Yeah, so 3-2. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a fun, like the games have all been competitive against Florida in every sport. But yeah, so, kind of getting back on track with tomorrow night, I said that one thing I wanted to see was like Wade is an all-time great here. And he's had some big moments. But to me, as a guy that just kind of casually takes in basketball, I want Wade to have his AC Law moments to where he puts his stamp on. There's photos and there's videos that will be played in highlight reels
like the one
forever.
of me and Gabe sitting behind the basket like this. I have a cheat.
Hot dog. You went to Hot Dog City? Open mouth?
I don't think so. You know me. I'm stoic with really bad hair. I don't know why no one told me. Like this is kind of like now, but people tell me now. And then there was a young Bach sitting there, and for the shot, the picture of the shot. Right. But I get what you're saying, and I agree. But here's what I'll say: it should be that way. Like this is the evolution and maturation of a player. That's why AC Law, his senior year, and he hit the shot his junior year, right? Mm-hmm. His senior year, he was incredible. It was a whole nother level. And so, yeah, the shot came his junior year to put A&M in the tourney for the first time. His next year, he was the second best player in college basketball.
We went to Allen Fieldhouse and was just incredible.
Allen Fieldhouse beat Kansas when they're still Kansas. But I mean, when no one in the Big 12 was beating them, especially at the Fog. Went down to Austin and went toe-to-toe in a classic with Kevin Durant. KD was the only player in college basketball that year better than AC Law. It was in order, Kevin Durant, AC Law. Now, and that's why I'll always say AC Law, you are going to be very hard-pressed for me to ever put a player ahead of him because he was the first to bring it there in the modern, or since the, early 80s. He was the first to bring it there. And A&M's been good ever since. I know there's been down years, but like Mark, Billy Clyde went 2 times back-to-back with AC. Mark Turgeon went 4 years in a row, won a game 3 years in a row. Billy Kennedy, 2 Sweet 16s. Buzz Williams is working on his 3rd straight tourney berth. A&M basketball has been good since AC Law hit that shot. And so there's something, and again, like he was the second best player in college basketball behind a first ballot, probably top 20 player of all time in the NBA, top 25 player. So, but with that said, Wade Taylor is now a senior. He came back for this stuff you're talking about. And yeah, I want to see it too, but that's why he's back. So if you look at Wade as a freshman, as a sophomore, last year, and what did he do last year? Last year, he was freaking unconscious in Nashville. I didn't care who you put in front. Remember how he started games against Kentucky and Florida, and then that Nebraska game when this team hadn't gotten over the hump, and he did not play well along with the rest of the team against Penn State the year before. And what did he do? They're talking about the
Japanese kid.
Okay, I thought he was Japanese. The Japanese kid. I just wasn't positive. I didn't want
I don't know.
He did. He did. I can't think of it. But he was really good. Yeah, and all we heard about was him. Thank God Olin's not on right now.
They called him the Japanese Steph Curry. Tominaga.
That's it.
Japanese
Steph Curry. That's his nickname. I could do so much better than that. But the Japanese Steph Curry, and Wade Taylor said he came out there and Wade Taylor shot the lights out in Memphis, and that I thought was a big moment in his maturation process. Is like the spotlight was on. A&M needed to win a game. They needed to get that turning win, and he came out and just absolutely lit it up and ended that game in the first half. That was as good a tournament performance I think as good a tournament performance as I've ever seen from an Aggie.
All right, let's go to break. We continue to break down this basketball game tomorrow, get into a little transfer portal talk, see what Noah Thomas is up to and Billy's thoughts on that as we continue on TexAgs Live on a Friday morning, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Everyone, David Nuno here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season.
Bottom of the 10 o'clock hour on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelry. Very spirited discussion in the break about the necessity of lifting weights.
Discussion about
of lifting weights at 5 a.m. So I would like to get Nick Savage's take on the situation. He's a 5 a.m. workout person now. Nick, do you have anything to say for yourself?
No, because I haven't done one single 5 a.m. workout
Oh,
yet.
he said he hasn't done one single 5 a.m. workout yet, but he's got Callie on the hook for some kind of I think she paid him in advance for training sessions.
What is this? Some David Goggins crap?
I don't know.
You just purposefully torturing yourselves?
No.
The thought of the only time I'm getting up to do something, you might wake up and need a glass of water. You might need to get up and, fortunately I'm not there yet, but get up, go to the bathroom at night. But,
5 a.m. is early, dude.
To get up to do something.
You're up at 4:30.
Exactly. To get up and do something at 4:30, it's either driving to the airport. That's pretty much it. And that's only if you live in College Station, you have to drive to Houston or Austin or Dallas, but not Dallas. But yeah, what are y'all going to go do? Mud runs with David Goggins and Nick Savage?
And David Nuno?
And what's this other tool's name? What's this guy's name? Slosh's boy. What's his name? Your guy, too. You guys were singing, you had him at the altar for a while, and now it's you don't even acknowledge
Dr.
him.
Mike?
No, that's your current one.
Jocko
Willick. Yeah.
That's David's good friend.
David's never met him. My buddy Christian sent me a picture with him. He knows it, not friends with him. He knows him and worked out with him. I sent it to Nuno. I go, here's somebody that's actually met your good friend Jocko Willick. Him, Goggins, this Dr. Mike. You guys go. It's like a flavor of the week, Callie. They pick a guy. They're working out. They worship at the altar of this dude. Dr. Mike, just slap a doctor in front of your name.
This guy thinks that you can only be a doctor if you help people.
Medical school.
Medical doctor.
That's it.
There are a lot of people
I'm sorry, you're right.
With.
The doctorates. Yes. But Dr. Mike is not a doctor. He's got a doctorate degree. In what?
Exercise science.
BSing people like you on YouTube.
Hey, listen.
He does. He has a doctorate and a BS degree. I promise you, mark my words, we'll be sitting here, and you'll admit it, because you will. I know how you are. You're going to tell me, yeah, he does a lot of things now I don't like. I'm on to,
guy.
I'm on to Lieutenant Jacobs. He's the new one now. It went from Dr. Mike to Lieutenant Jacobs. I mean, what the hell, dude?
That's good.
This is like us with quarterbacks over the years.
That's to convince you the next one's going to be better.
It's going to be Starkville.
We had Jonathan Moxon in here yesterday. And
who was that?
Stephen McGee. It's actually a pretty good comp. Yeah. Lance Arbor goes down. Reggie McNeil goes down. Here comes a guy. Moxon, just unassuming. All of a sudden now, he's everybody's financial advisor. So he's kind of worked himself up.
Meanwhile, Allie Larder's starring in Landman. Olin's career, Varsity Blues, here's Olin. And I know when everybody watched that movie, they were like, this guy's set to skyrocket.
With his 30-second cameo?
He was going to be like, this guy's a star. Hollywood's calling. He could have been Billy Bob Thornton, but Olin chose this path, and we're very fortunate that he did.
Billy Bob Buchanan.
Meanwhile, Allie, how do you think Olin feels watching Landman, knowing that two of his co-stars...
Well, Billy Bob Thornton wasn't in Varsity Blues.
Oh, no. Which one was he in?
He was in
Permian.
Friday Night Live.
Friday Night. So, John Voight.
Yeah, John Voight.
Olin and John Voight. I really thought Olin was going to be in the Anaconda movie. Instead, they picked John Voight, and it kind of went sideways from there. But Olin and Allie Larder, and he's watching Landman just going, damn it, that could have been me.
Well, we just took up an entire segment.
It's good, because we're staying late today.
Yeah, okay, we're staying late. More actual A&M sports talk, less about Olin Buchanan's history in Hollywood.
We might keep talking about Olin, and then go even longer. So,
well, we're going to keep doing that, let's get him down here so he can say his piece, because he's listening upstairs.
We might need to.
We come back more with Billy Liucci on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're back. TexAgs Live at the bottom of the hour. Billy Liucci in studio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Billy Liucci in the Rollo Insurance Studios. And we welcome in
OB.
Mr. Olin Buchanan. And Billy has some things that we'd like Olin to pontificate on.
Well, weatherman, if you could tell us about this Arctic cold blast that's coming in next week.
It's going to be coming in from the northwest, swooping down into the Great Plains, into Lubbock and places where it's known to be cold.
Bitter Arctic air, but we think the snow will cut off just north of Bryan College Station, somewhere around Hearn. So better luck next year. OB.
Yeah.
Do you watch Landman?
I watched it until I had to start paying for it. Right?
Started about exactly better than I would have hoped for. Simple question. How do you feel watching Allie Larder and knowing that you were at one point in your acting career were on her level?
Yeah.
And to see her, and then where did it go wrong?
Well, I don't think I was ever on her level. And by the way, I think she's a lot more attractive as an older woman than she was, back then. Yeah. How do I?
Was she the whip?
She was the whipped cream girl. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to beg to.
So what was the question?
She's in high school in that video.
But I'm glad that she's had a successful career.
Okay.
And it seems like this is going to be a great thing for her career.
Did you ever talk to her?
No.
Did you ever talk to John Voight?
Yes.
What did he say? What kind of advice?
He didn't give me advice. We were sitting at we broke for dinner. It was like midnight in this room in Elgin, Texas, and it's me and this local actor named Tim Crowley and Barry Switzer and John Voight. And
Barry Switzer?
Yeah, because he was in a scene that got cut.
Okay.
But
Olin's made it, and Barry Switzer.
I did. So John Voight was trying to include everybody in the conversation. So he said, "So Olin, so you live here in Austin?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "My daughter loves Austin." I said, "Really?"
Angelina.
I said, "Well, what does your daughter do?" He said, "Well, she's an actress." I said, "Oh, no, actually," I said, somehow, "So your daughter comes here and says, yeah." He says, she's an actress." I said, "Well, what's her name?" He goes, Angelina Jolie. I said, "Oh." So, what's she been in? He goes like, yeah.
Was she famous yet?
She was rising, but I wouldn't call her famous. But he's probably thinking, I won the Academy Award, and I'm sitting here in Elgin, Texas, talking to this yahoo who has no idea who my daughter is.
What do you win the Academy Award for? That
Midnight Cowboy?
Yeah, where he's in the car at the end.
Are you disappointed that your career didn't take you to be in movies like Anaconda?
I would have liked to have been like the have the title role in Anaconda.
Some might say that OB ruined John Voight's career because from that conversation on, this dude's winning Academy Awards, and then he's in Anaconda. Like, with Ice Cube and J-Lo. Like, I'd like to track his movies before OB and after OB. And by the way,
I'm not getting past the thing.
Basically what you're saying is we were one step away from, instead of Brangelina, Angelolin.
Oh, Nick, I need you to clip that, send it to me, and send it to Stephen McGee as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Olin, thank you.
Angelina Jolie. OB, you outdid yourself.
Yeah.
It's better than we thought.
Thank you, Olin. Are we still on the air? I don't even know. All right, Billy, what do we even do? That's an all-time TexAgs live moment.
Yeah, we're going long.
Nick, okay, we're going to break is what we're going to do. We're going to go to break, and we'll figure it out from here on. We're going to go a little bit long.
What are our topics upcoming?
We got transfer portal, and unless you want to continue on basketball.
Portal, basketball.
Playoffs.
Well, we did portal, Georgia, Notre Dame.
We haven't talked on you, Dean.
And on you. Well, portal, yeah. So portal and Georgia, Notre Dame.
Okay, we come back.
And the SEC.
And we're going to go a little bit long here on a Friday edition of TexAgs Live Olin Buchanan, the star of the show, once again. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers and the Rollo Insurance Studios. I think we've got it all out of our system and we can refocus. An all-time moment, if you're just tuning in, you missed an all-time moment from Olin Buchanan at the
Oregon
end of the
five.
Go ahead.
No, just Olin. That was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare that something lives up to the hype the way that just did. But boy,
all right, Texas A&M key portal edition.
Here's
yesterday.
a portal news for you from 4 minutes ago. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with Oregon's 5-star quarterback signee?
No.
Jaron Kiwi Sagapalutale?
No.
Jaron Kiwi Sagapalutale is expected to enter the NCAA transfer portal. He is a 5-star, 19th national, number 4 QB in the country on the 2025 on-3 100. So, I mean, literally signed a month ago, and he's going in the portal. He must have really not liked that bowl performance. What it really is
Oregon's going
to start. Yeah,
Oregon's going to go get a portal.
Or go get one. But I think from what it sounds like to me, they're really excited about
Dante Moore.
Yeah. They're actually, but in this world, like Or do they go, is Quinn Ewers their starting quarterback next year? Got you. See, you people that are listening that hate hearing that, imagine him at Oregon, just zip, zip, zip.
Well, the decision he's got to make is pretty fascinating. And I hope, just for the entertainment purposes of it, I hope it's not NFL. I hope he says, I want to play another year of college football. Texas, force me out.
I know. That would be fun.
And especially if they beat Ohio State and they're going to play in in the final. Well,
I could leave that part out of it, but yeah, I get
regardless, I mean, he's one of the more decorated quarterbacks ever now.
He's one of the most talked about players in college football. He's really damn good. I think he's flawed, but who isn't? He's just not. I don't think he is, legendary. He might end up being legendary at Texas in a few weeks. Who knows? After that overtime performance, that's the kind of thing that could springboard you. But he's really damn good.
I think he's good too.
And if he comes back, he'd be one of, if not the most talked about player in college football. He would be the most talked about player in college football next year if he came back. Either he would or Arch Manning would. One of the two. It would be fascinating to see.
All right,
but Oregon's 5-star quarterback out after 1 month.
And this is the current state of things. And so you can complain about it, but you're living in it. So you got to be able to adjust to it. And A&M's been able to.
If it happens to the team that's been number one all year and pays Nike money, Phil Knight money, and it happens, and they might be okay with it. It might have been mutual. But what I'm saying is, if it happens to them a couple days after they lost in the playoff, it can happen to anybody, and it will happen to anybody.
All right, a little closer to home, Texas A&M adds a key piece to their portal class. Tyler Onyedim, a native of Richmond, Texas, went to Richmond Foster High School. Really productive career at Iowa State, comes to A&M with 1 year of eligibility left. Looch, this is a big get at a position of absolute, not need. They had to have it.
No, they had to have it, and they had to have a player of his ilk too. You watch him on tape, you see what he did in the Big 12, and it's tough when you're not looking at, you're looking at stats. He puts up some good stats, but really at that position, it's like, what is this, an NFL football player? And the answer is hell yeah. And that's what they needed on the inside. Does he have the size to be that guy? The answer is hell yeah. He checked multiple boxes for the Aggies, and now all of a sudden you look at that interior position, you go, okay, man, I feel a lot better about it with him and Regis and Hicks, and then you can go from there. But they need more.
I think they need one more.
They do. But I'm saying the difference of what it looks like today versus yesterday is insane. And on top of that, again, I think this could be an impact player along the defensive front. And the reality is,
it has to be at that spot.
The reality is you lost 3 impact guys. I still think this is what they needed though in a big way. You look at he's just a wider bodied, bigger dude, and they were playing Shamar in there, and there's a lot of worlds where Shamar Turner would be a defensive end in some defenses. But they did that almost out of necessity, and then you had Stewart and Scorton. But those 3, you lost a lot on the D-line. You have to bring a lot in. And I like where their class is now with, 4 portal D linemen. And I agree with you 100%. We've been saying it the whole time. They've got to get another big. They got to get another big body in there from somewhere.
Hey, Nick, shake your head yes or no. I'm missing a break or I'm not missing a break. No, we're going all the way through here. Okay, perfect. All right. So from Onyedim, Billy, we talked about needing one more spot at defensive tackle. But I'm of the opinion, especially after watching Landon Rink play yesterday in the Under Armour game, that one of these high school guys can be the help if you need it. You'd obviously want to go find an impact player, but and I know you've been out about A&M, potentially going to get a linebacker. But if there's not that guy there, now the kid they've got on campus right now, David Gusta out of Washington State, is that type of player. But where do you draw the line on, okay, we need another body, but are any of these guys better than what we're bringing in out of the high school ranks?
I think on the inside, you need another body. I think you do. who are we forgetting on the inside besides the freshmen?
You forget TJ Searcy's like 6'5", 285.
Okay.
So he can play probably that 3 technique that Shamar Turner played. You've got DJ Hicks, obviously Albert Regis, who he won the defensive line. Gee, they're so loud.
Now you know.
But
do you understand now?
You know who showed up.
The Grind Dussel.
Yeah, and that's why.
But do you understand now? You bellow.
No,
you've got
I don't
a bellowing,
bellow like that. That's high pitched and piercing.
But you've got a bellowing, booming voice back.
Good. I need a boomer. But to your point, I think they would ideally need to go get an inside guy still. Does it get tougher to recruit an interior defensive lineman who's looking at that scenario, especially if they've got 1 year left of college football and going, do I want to be a 3rd or 4th option? Now, I think A&M can combat that, and they have to combat it because Mike Elko, he rotates those guys a bunch. And they'll play a lot of snaps, even if you're not the
I think those
starter
true freshmen, I don't think you can tell me who's going to come in and play. I agree with you. Like Rink looks like a guy that he's the guy that when they start practices, we're going to immediately hear about him.
Yep.
We're going to immediately hear about how
he's the most ready to play of all of them.
And I just think his style of play impresses coaches, and it's going to make the A&M O-lineman go, damn, this dude brings it. Like, I just think his style of play is that he makes an immediate impression, and the right kind of impression. And it was why I was so excited about A&M getting him. I think they need some of that. I'm talking about just that toughness and that nastiness and playing with a relentless motor, but he's also really talented.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that dude's incredibly strong.
And Chase Sims
he's quick for something.
They're very similar.
Chase Sims, to me, is as disruptive as anybody in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And then DJ Sanders, for the way that guy moves, for his size and frame. Now, I think DJ, you get him like, we're going to look up like 2 years of the weight room for him, and he might be the monster of all monsters. And he's exactly what I want to see them have. And who knows how big he's going to get. But all 3 of those guys, I think, are really good and plenty good enough to come in and have an impact in terms of that depth that, like you said, Mike Elko will play.
Yeah, and again, you have to say,
I still think they
you got to go try to find one. But that's my question is, where is the line drawn? Okay, there's not anybody in there that's better than what we've got coming in.
Were you doing backflips? I mean, you and I were excited about a guy that started 25 games at Wisconsin, but was anybody doing backflips over Rodis Johnson?
No.
He helped A&M this year.
Again,
and as the year went on, he played, I felt like, less and less. I don't know if he was banged up or what, but Rodis Johnson helped A&M. He was a part of that win streak. And a lot of people probably didn't notice how much he was out there. He'd make a play here or there, but even just keeping those guys fresh with a veteran body that's played enough football to be able to play in the SEC. And I just think they need one more of those.
Yeah, and I think, you look back at what they did in the last transfer portal cycle when they first got here and they were just finding their bearings. And they, at one point, Billy, it was like 13 players over the course of 6 days. Remember that? And it started with Nick Scorton, who Jason Howell brought up, committed to A&M 1 year ago today.
Wow.
Or maybe it was tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, they went on a crazy run where they were just bringing in all kind of names. And, they hit on some of these unheralded guys. And you mentioned Rodis Johnson and Marcus Ratcliffe and Shane Calhoun, and they got him in the second window. So they are doing a pretty good job. And I think guys like Mike O'Reilly and Nate Berkshire will be really intriguing follows through the spring and then into the fall camp for that same purpose. These were not highly coveted guys in the portal. A&M went with their team and their analysts, and they sought them out, and they got them. How do they fit? What are they? Did A&M do a really good job of their evals again?
Well, and I think specifically at tight end, like big-bodied, strong dudes that can block and that are older.
Yeah,
and
everybody's saying they need a pass-catching tight end. What if he's not out there?
Mm-hmm.
What if there's not one in the transfer portal?
What if keep developing Theo?
Right.
I mean, he's
you're in a position right now where you're gonna have 5 scholarship tight ends in the spring, with the 2 newbies out of the portal, Theo, Eric Carner, who gray-shirted, and Keaty Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about looking at that group and going, none of them are going to emerge as a pass-catching threat. Because Theo's already halfway there. You know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. But, I mean, if you look at Theo from a year ago to now and some of the plays he's made in the passing game, I mean, go look at that New Mexico State game. I know he had the drop against Auburn. How about the catches he made against Bowling Green in Florida? Not a lot of dudes can do that. So, yeah, I mean, is there an answer there yet? No. Can there be an answer and we just don't know about it yet? Hell yeah. And maybe it's just maybe you've got a assembly line of possession receiving tight ends. You don't. No one's saying you got that Gunnar Helm out there or Jay Sternberger. I mean, obviously, I'd love to see that. Probably don't have that, but you might have a bunch of guys that can move the chains that are 6'5" plus that can catch the football, keep drives going, and command a little bit of attention there.
All right, we're off air on radio. Louis Bellina Show coming up. We'll continue our conversation here on the site and on YouTube. Billy, do you want to continue portal or do you want to start?
No, we were still on. I thought we were over. I could have been.
No,
I guess keep talking portal.
Okay, so spots remaining. I don't think that there's. I think there's very few actually.
Yeah,
and one of those is going to be determined by whether Noah comes back or not. So, and we talked a lot about Noah yesterday. Heard he may visit Penn State this week, which was one from completely off the radar. It'll be interesting to see where he goes to visit because we know that the goal of him going in was to try to get more footballs. And from what I understand, like one of the things that the professional scouts are looking to see out of Noah is, can you play faster? Well, if I'm A&M, I'm looking at that and going, well, if you leave A&M, this is your fourth offensive coordinator in 4 years. You've had tons of turnover at quarterback. Coming back to A&M, you're going to play in an offense that you know with a guy that you built really good rapport with.
And with more help.
Yes.
Around you.
So just the visits that he's going to take are going to be interesting to track because is Drew Aller going to go to the NFL?
Everybody gets upset, when they're listening and everybody wants to get offended. And I'm just going to be real about it. Like, just being as honest as I can, like, Noah Thomas can go somewhere else and achieve success. He certainly can. I just think it is so much so in his best interest to stay and not go through that learning curve, not go start anew somewhere where you don't know anybody, you got no friends, and not be sure of your quarterback. And I think this is just it's as simple. I don't think it's a money play. I said that yesterday. But I do think this. I'm going to keep it as real as you can here. Now that he's in the portal, money is an issue. I don't give a damn. Like, I'm not saying that's the determining factor. Any player, whether they're rich, middle income, poor, any player ever that goes into the portal in 2024, there is a whole world that opens up to them. It's not normal. It's not real life. It's not the real world. So you, me, anybody in that room over there, anybody listening at that age, if you go in there and you thought you were going to, like any job, if you thought, man, I'm real happy with what I'm making here to do this job, whether you're 18 or 58, I'm really happy with this job. I like it. I like where I'm at. And then they'd say, hey, you can go in this little thing we call the portal and just kind of see what's out there and come back. And then you start having people doubling, tripling. You don't know if it's a lie or the truth. That all of a sudden it becomes, I think, so blinding that it's hard to just step back into that door and shut it. You get what I'm saying?
I agree, yeah.
And so now you've entered that into the mix as well. And the second part of that, though, is I think as real as can be, I think what you're seeing, and it's TBD whether wrong or right in this thinking. I think what you're seeing is a guy that just doesn't seem to have a lot of faith in the number of targets he'll get next year in this offense with that quarterback, and I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong. I think he could also go somewhere else and catch 50 balls for 1,000 yards and move himself well. I don't know, but I think he could do that here. Because of
where's the safer bet?
Who he is.
It's here. If you're gambling, if you're trying to play the odds,
I think so. But out of every school in the country, and again, the money that's now going to be out there, real or fictitious, that A&M is going to have to take a step and go, do we want to match it or get competitive with that? And I don't even think that matters. I don't think that's why he's going to pick it. But I think now it's like all these lights and flashing lights and all these programs that are in the playoffs and this and that. And it's like the devil you don't know.
Right.
And that is just, that's why they do everything they can to keep these guys from going in to the portal. But I think it boils down to, I just don't think on whether it's him or whoever, I don't think on their side there's enough confidence that by him staying, he's going to get the targets and catches and showcase his skill. And I disagree. It's not my decision, though. It's not. And I respect
and A&M needs him back
because
you're bringing in talented players, and if Noah leaves, you're probably going to try to go get one more receiver. Mm-hmm. But I don't think, and I'll be willing to bet, that there's not going to be a guy out there that can replicate this late in the portal that you're going to be able to go get, and that's similar to Noah.
No. I think both sides. Like I think I agree with Noah that like he was kind of forced early on in his career to play hurt, and he was banged up a lot, and then and then the offensive turnover and all this, and then this year quarterback turnover on top of it. But I also think Noah's got to be like, hey, you're not a first, second round pick, and there's stuff you can do to be better too. It's a two-way street. Like, you're not ready, and I think he understands that, or he'd be going in the NFL. But to me, like, yeah, I think both sides obviously would benefit. The Aggies would. They're not going to have a guy with that kind of height that can go make plays up here. Now, Micah's got it in him, but he's not 6'5". Noah's unique. They don't have a guy like him. I wouldn't see a world where he wasn't one of your starting three out there. I think he's too valuable. And
For sure.
And I think his numbers went from this to this to this in 3 years. And I'm fully convinced they would go to this. But I'm not sure he's fully convinced of that.
Well, and I think...
And if he was, I just don't think he'd be in the portal. Because like I said, in no world do I think this thing's about money. I think it's about trying to get to the next level. So to me, when I say he went boom, 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 and we'll go to here, I just don't think they're as sold on that as I am.
Well, and they are bringing in talented guys, but nobody that has played in this offense and with very little production. Noah's going to have more production than anybody, I guess, Concepcion. But still, he hadn't played in this league or in this offense.
And look, it's been pretty well known that Noah was a flight risk. It's not a secret over the last. It's not a secret in that he is the guy I've been talking about, and we've known there'd been one on offense, one on defense that, we're going to be not problematic as in causing problems, but problematic to keep. And then there's also, there's different factors involved in these guys. And with Noah, they knew when they were recruiting these receivers, the three they got, and Nick Anderson, like, they knew that there was Noah might go. So you had to recruit, and that's the position that you're in as a head coach, is you have to recruit, kind of like do both. Like, we're recruiting, trying to keep this player, but also this player holds all the leverage and could and quite possibly will leave. And the moves I make to kind of surround a supporting cast, whether it's the second or the third guy or whoever, might push him out the door. But if I don't do this, he might go out anyway. Mm-hmm. So coaches are in a weird spot when it comes to that. But I guess in closing, Brawny, what I'd say about the portal before we quickly talk about the bowl and the playoff, I think what we haven't talked much about are these players that have 5 days after their season ends to go in. Because you just saw Georgia's season end. You just saw, even schools like
Ohio State. Oregon.
Oregon and Georgia. There's a ton of talent right there whose seasons ended. In Boise and Arizona State, which we talked yesterday, they could be a primetime target for Predators. And then you still got Texas' season's going to end, Ohio State season's going to end, and then Penn State and Notre Dame. So I'm not saying those teams, they're winning, so there's not going to be like mass exodus out of those places. There are going to be guys that want to play more. There are going to be guys like a couple A&M's gotten from these named programs that are kind of biding their time and have grown impatient. So there's going to be more out there. So if you're Elko and the staff, you certainly want to keep a little wiggle room and flexibility. Again, it's not going to be giant numbers, but you might go pluck 2 players that we don't even know about today.
Before we get to the Sugar Bowl yesterday, just a quick comment on R.C. Slocum's retirement. What a career. And service to the university and the whole thing.
Legend doesn't do it justice. It's overused when it comes to someone like him. He is a Texas A&M icon. There will be a statue of him one day. And it's just, there could have been just as a coach, like both him and Jackie, as coaches, you really appreciate what those guys did, winning conference title after conference title and building the program to where it, throughout both of their times, was one of the best in the country. You just didn't have the opportunity. You know how many playoffs those two would have been in over the years in the Southwest Conference? 12-team playoff.
Oh, yeah.
And beating Texas A&M and those defenses. And so RC, he's there every time A&M's called upon him and needed him. He's been the interim AD. He's been on committees. He's been on, and it's just more than that. It's what the players think of him. And I said the former players, his guys, and 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, 40 years later in some instances. But it's just, I retweeted that yesterday off his, I don't know if it's his or Nell's Facebook post. And you read the comments from other fan bases. Fans at Arkansas, at LSU, at Texas, at Oklahoma, they're like, just the respect he had throughout college football. And again, we sit in here and we can talk about Lane Kiffin, you can talk about, Nick Saban or Kirby Smart and all these coaches that, drive everybody crazy. Brian Kelly, they were doing it with Jimbo when he was here. You just didn't hear a lot of that with R.C. Slocum, even from rival fan bases. And that's what's, all these years later, you get fans from other schools telling stories about not what they thought of him as a coach, but like when they met him somewhere. They met him at an event. They met him on the golf course. They met him traveling at an airport somewhere, and how he acted and how he was to them. And that to me is why his legacy is what it is.
A legend in Southeast Texas, growing up from, and legend at McNeese. I've followed his footsteps, and I'll never reach his legendary status at any of those places. So great career, R.C. Slocum.
And R.C. Jr.
No. I couldn't even stand in his shadow.
God, can we make a joke?
Yeah.
Thank
but
you,
I knew
Rick.
you were going to try to overdo it.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Richard.
He's
the one that. All right. Sugar Bowl. I thought Notre Dame was awesome. I thought they were extremely well coached. The game plan was incredible, and they flat out whipped Georgia on the line of scrimmage.
Marcus Freeman's feeling it right now. And listen, Notre Dame is playing without arguably, well, let's just say 2 of their 3 best players. Like that D lineman they lost is a beast. Yeah. And I was watching him. He wrecks shit. And we're off air. He does though, right? To say he wrecks stuff didn't do it justice.
Okay.
He wrecks games. That was not a cool cuss. That was just for emphasis. He destroys offensive, what are we doing over here?
Just putting my stuff away.
Like what?
I got to meet somebody at noon.
We're not going till noon. It's 11:10.
You might go till noon.
No, we're going to go till about 11:20. So if you haven't noticed, I'm timing this up to butt it right up against lunch.
Yeah.
This This is all by design.
This
is orchestrated.
Are you going somewhere where your company's not allowed to eat the rolls out of fear of carbohydrates?
You mean with Nuno?
No, Slarth.
Seth? No, I don't do that. I don't. So, in fact, my New Year's resolution is to not eat with people like that. They're going to shame you. So look, I think they're without him, and they're without a corner that was trending to be a first-round pick. I think by most accounts, he was a first-round pick. So you take that off of a defense, and they just wrecked. And I get it. Georgia's without Gunnar Stockton. I mean, without Carson Beck. And I know he wasn't great, but he's had good games in his career against real teams, and he's a veteran, second-year starter. Like,
there was nothing that happened yesterday, though, in that game where I'm going, well, Carson Beck's a huge difference maker there.
I don't think so either, but you got to understand the drop-off. I mean, I don't care. I know Stockton made some nice throws there, but to go against that defense in your first career start, and with that at stake and that kind of atmosphere and magnitude, that's a ton. But Georgia's offense hasn't, like you're saying, it hasn't been good all year. They struggled to score 14 or 15 against Kentucky. The 2 games against Texas, even when they beat them, Carson Beck throwing 3 picks, and they couldn't do much on offense against Texas most of that game. Their running game isn't what it once was. Their O-line isn't what it once was. There's no Lad McConkey. There's no
George Pickens.
Well, there's definitely no Pickens, but I'm saying in the last
there's no playmaking receiver.
But in the last few years, with Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey first and foremost, and it is not the same. And their running game is nothing like it. Remember the running back Chubb and DeAndre Swift,
Marino.
Well, now you're going way back to almost my era. Gurley and Marino. By the way, I saw Todd Gurley at SEC Media Days this year, and it was me and Roman Harper outside. And Roman's not a small dude, and Gurley shows up. He had been at the All-Star game. Pulls up in an Uber, gets out. Actually, it wasn't an Uber. It was a giant Sprinter van by himself. Gets out, and he's wearing I think he had on an Ohtani jersey. That is a big, big dude to be a running back. Like, that is what you think of in the, like, when A&M joined the SEC, like the SEC running backs. That's what it was Gurley and all those guys at Bama, Derrick Henry, all of them. I don't feel like they quite create them like that right now. And the SEC is interesting, right? And as we talk about Notre Dame beating Georgia, I love Riley Leonard, dude.
He just leaves so much to be desired as a passer.
It's fine.
But he just wills his team to win.
And I think ultimately that's going to catch up to them, their inability to pass, like especially against Ohio State.
I think Ohio State and Texas is the national championship game.
I mean, I see people saying that. I think we're getting – I think there's one thing going on here. I think people are giving Texas a little too much credit. Did we not just watch them almost be lucky to beat Arizona State?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Texas can beat Ohio State, and they would be favored against Penn State or Notre Dame.
Oh, so Ohio State looks like a daggum NFL team.
Ohio State is the team that you say that about. There's not – Texas, like I said, they were very fortunate. They scored 17 against A&M. Georgia shut them down twice. They scored 20 against Arkansas. This is all down the stretch. I would not say coronate Texas if they beat Ohio State. I would bet money on them to win it. But Ohio State looks like a wagon. But I would say the only team that can beat Ohio State left is Texas. But don't underestimate the fact that Notre Dame
can keep them from scoring.
Notre Dame and Penn State are teams that are familiar. Those kids are all familiar with each other, and like you said, Notre Dame can keep them from scoring like that. You think, and maybe Texas can, and maybe Texas can too. I think we're underestimating Penn State from the standpoint of if they played Ohio State, they're very familiar with them. They play them for pretty much every year. They've already played them this year. that wasn't just, I mean, Ohio State was the better team, but it wasn't like just a complete beat down. I don't think it's guaranteed, but I get what we're saying. Like if you look at the teams and watch them on TV play football, you go, oh, there's Ohio State and Texas, because the way they do it offensively, and Ohio State absolutely looks like the best team. So the question is, what's wrong? What was wrong with the SEC this year? Because that's what everybody's talking about. And no one's saying the league sucks, but everybody's piling on. And I got drugged through 8 miles of torture last night when I'm at dinner. I got a text from one of my friends she said, don't check your mention. Log off for about 2 hours. I go, oh, God, what happened? I'm at dinner. Like, I'm not going to look. And she just texted back, RIP. And I go, oh, my God. And I knew what it was. It's Texas being the last team standing in the SEC. And here I was saying that they're one of the best 4 teams in college football. You could put Oregon back in there and say, well, they had whatever. They're one of the top 4. They might be one of the top 2. They might, whatever. The league, why did it fail this year? Not only in the postseason, okay, because a lot of these bowl games, guys, I don't care. I wanted A&M to beat USC, but that was neither the A&M team we saw all year nor the USC team we saw all year. Last night, Ole Miss versus Duke, those were like, Trey Harris wasn't playing. I don't know who else was playing. In the world of opt-outs and stuff, South Carolina without their safety who just quit mid-game, and credit Shane Beamer for kicking his ass off the sideline and sending him in the locker room. He said, I'm not going to play. And then without Kennard, that's a different football. Without Rocket Sanders, it's a different football team than the one A&M played. But remember, this league lost a lot of non-conference games, too, that mattered this year. More so than usual, right? I mean, are you going to just look on your computer and laugh? Or are you going to help me here? What are some games they lost? I'm struggling to think of them. What are some games?
You don't like people jumping in.
You're right. What games they lost in the non-conference? Because it's not just the bowl game.
Well, I mean, obviously A&M lost to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a bunch of good wins, though, right? South Carolina beat Clemson.
LSU lost to USC.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia beat Clemson. Nick's saying something. Auburn lost to Cal. Keep going. Arkansas lost to Oak State, who didn't win a Big 12 game.
Yeah.
Florida, Miami.
Keep them going, Nick.
Kentucky lost to Louisville.
Yeah.
Mississippi State lost to, was it Kent State?
And
Arizona
or something
State.
like that, yeah.
And Arizona State. So, I mean, there were a lot of lows for teams this year in this conference, in the non-conference where the league.
Vandy lost to Georgia
State. Vandy to Georgia State right before they beat Bama. So, yeah, the conference was not what it normally is. And like I said, the bowl games don't matter to me. The out-of-conference games do. And that was always my argument with these Big 12 honks. And unfortunately, we've now got a lot of Big 12 honks that have become SEC. They're in the league talking trash about the SEC too. The SEC saying they're carrying the SEC. And sadly, right now they are, because they beat a Big 12 team that wasn't in the Big 12 last year. Make it make sense to me. You can't. But the reality is the league disappointed this year. And is it the portal?
It could be the portal. It could be NIL play, like leveling the playing field where guys, the depth at each school is no longer there.
Particularly Bama and Georgia.
Sure, but I also think that at some point, when you have 15 years of just flat out dominance of a sport, that it's, to me, this is the outlier.
It's been coming. I mean, it's gone like. It's kind of like Bama. How I've been saying for the last few years. They're coming back down to earth, which is why I thought Nick Saban's job last year was the best coaching job.
Fired his co-DC.
Yeah. And it's why I thought Saban's job last year was the best job he'd done, because I never thought Jalen Milroe was that good, and I don't think you can win with an inconsistent passer a championship.
So you don't think Notre Dame can win the national championship?
Not if they run into, I just have a hard time seeing Notre Dame, and I have a hard time seeing Notre Dame against the Texas or Ohio State defense.
I agree.
That's what, and I love Riley Leonard. What I was going to say before you said, and I agree, he as a passer, he leaves a ton to be desired. But I just love a dude that when he needs 4 yards, he gets 4.5. When he needs 7 yards, he gets 8. That's what the dude does. But yeah, you're limited there. My point about the SEC, I guess I would say, as I talk about Milroe and I talk about Bama and Georgia coming back to the pack, part of it is they don't have the depth that they had because of the portal and because those young guys do not want to stay and develop. They want to get out, get paid, play. Part of it is that. Another part of it is, and I think this is the biggest thing in the SEC this year, look at quarterback play. Go across the board. Diego Pavia was a top 3 quarterback in the league, and he was fun to watch. He was at New Mexico State last year, came to the SEC, and is basically a top 3 quarterback at Vandy. Because who you got? Jackson Dart was really good.
Quinn,
who again, the Texas fans themselves will tell you he frustrates the hell out of them.
Nussmeier, frustrating for LSU fans.
Nussmeier started, they thought, and now they're back on it again. They're doing the same crap they do every year. Brian Kelly wins the portal. Nussmeier throws for a ton of yards.
Lagway got better.
But
Lenore Sellers was good.
Sellers was good, but you rode that with him. I mean, it is not a quarterback-driven league, and even some of these guys you're mentioning, there wasn't a lot of, veteran. Auburn had Peyton Thorne. A&M had to go through quarterback. They went from one to the other to the other to the other in a year. You look at OU and what happened with Jackson Arnold and then Hawkins and then back. They were all over the map. You talked about Nuss kind of leveling off. And
Taylor Green was...
Taylor Green, Florida. It's Mertz is doing pretty good, but let's work. You had a Yale guy playing.
Yeah, Nico was really under... I thought Nico was underwhelming.
Wildly inconsistent and underwhelming to me, to the point where I'm not at all sold on him yet. Vandergriff at Kentucky stunk.
Yeah, their whole offense stunk.
Their offense got better against Texas when he went out. Mississippi State, they lost Chapin for the year in the second game. Had to play a freshman quarter. Well, he was a true freshman, right? Van Buren. So I don't know who we're leaving out, but we named a ton. And Lenore Sellers.
Brady Cook was no good.
Brady Cook, yeah. He was injured all year, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might have as much to do with it as anything. I mean, I don't want to, go through and try to out loud talk it, but I look at even, the Big 12 had probably – might have had better quarterbacks this year. Not teams. I mean, come on. But watching Levitt, and I've watched him other times this year. Shadur, the guy at BYU. Again, I don't want to go too far down because it's probably not completely true. But
the top of the league had good quarterback play.
And you look at Ohio. You look at the Big Ten, and what did they have? And look at the playoff. What do they all have? They got veterans, right?
Yeah. Old guys playing quarterback.
Drew Aller, Will Howard, Ewers,
Dylan Gabriel,
and Dylan Gabriel, who's just out of it. But Will Howard and we're just talking about him now.
Quinn?
No, Riley Leonard.
Oh.
These are veteran. The 4 quarterbacks left. I mean, Aller's the youngest, right? He's in year 2 as a starter.
Yeah, him and Quinn are the same age, but Quinn graduated high school early.
Yeah, so.
But are they all transfers except for Aller?
I mean, I almost don't count Quinn as a transfer. It was he left high school early, took a payday, and was back at Texas.
Yeah.
Never played. But yeah, I mean, they are all transfers except for Aller. So, I mean, but they're all veteran QBs. I don't know. I mean, I don't think any of them are great.
I would argue that those teams are not in those positions because of their quarterback play.
Yeah.
I think it's a whole roster.
But they've got what they've all got are defense and a veteran quarterback, experienced quarterback. That is the one thing they all have. So that, again, and the SEC, I don't think there was enough of that. If you said how many teams in the SEC have a proven, veteran, trustworthy quarterback and elite defense, it was probably Texas, and the other one was probably Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss, so that tells you what a crap job you did, Lane Kiffin, this year, because Jackson Dart was really good. And your defense was very expensive and very good.
And he started taking shots at Diego Pavia in the postgame. Of all people, he wanted to take shots at Vanderbilt.
It's unbelievable. But anyway.
There's a thread on our message board right now. It's 150, 175 long in terms of replies of people pro Lane Kiffin. A&M should have hired him. You have no idea how bad of a human being this guy is.
I mean, I don't know the human being, but I do know the reputation.
That's fair. I shouldn't say that.
And I do know. I
don't know the guy at all.
Like, I don't know in his
Never
day.
talked to him.
Yeah, I don't know in his day how many people he goes and is nice to and helps and stuff. But I do know what I've heard about working for him, about playing for him, about the reputation of it. And I know there's somebody right now, Maroon White, going, well, he wins the game, but
got to draw.
Did he? Does he? And what? But also, like, what's the risk fact? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and I think people one day realize that it doesn't matter. But like, they can say all they want. I mean, there are also a lot of people that wanted Art Briles to be a coach here for a long time.
All right, man. Big one tomorrow.
And by the way, that's not a comparison. We ain't talking about the same thing here. Like, but there are a lot of people that wanted Chris Beard, a lot of people that wanted Art Briles, a lot of these coaches along the way. It's just the nature of the beast in this thing. But my thing is, what I just said, Texas and Ole Miss had the team. They had the teams, and one of them's playing right now in a Final Four, and one of them didn't even reach the playoff, and the coach is still complaining about it.
All right, big one on the hardwood tomorrow. Aggies and Longhorns, 6 o'clock tip, 7 o'clock tip. 7 o'clock, I think, at Reed Arena. Thank you guys for tuning in. Extra long, Nick, thanks for hanging out with us, man, producing a long show on a Friday. Nuno back in the host chair on Monday. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.